Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay, so welcome to day 2 of the Resource Mobilization and Grants Management training. For those who may not have joined us yesterday, my name is Kevin Ozeni and I am from Training Center in Communication, which is a capacity building trust based at the University of Nairobi, Chiromo campus. So yesterday we explored fundamentals of resource mobilization and discussed some strategies for identifying and securing funding opportunities, and also had started on the key elements for developing a competitive project proposal. And today we're going to build on those discussions. And to facilitate us through the training will be Dr. Nicholas Ota. So a few housekeeping rules before we officially begin. Kindly keep your microphone muted unless you've been asked to talk. Okay. And keep your videos off for the session. Also, an attendance list is going to be shared over our break, which is going to be from around 11. So keep your eye out in the chat box for that. Welcome, Dr. Ota.
Okay, thank you, Kevina, and thank you, everyone. I know more people are still joining. Yesterday, we were so many of us here. I hope people are still joining. It's still early. I'm happy that you could find time to join on our second day. We had a very good discussion yesterday, and I think it also generated other discussions around compliance, discussion around the level of funding that African researchers are getting, and how then, why is it so that we get like less than 5% of the total funding that comes within the research space? And I think one of the reasons we talked about was that most of this money also comes from those people. So it's their money anyway, so they can influence where the money goes. But having said that, today I want us to focus on several things, and one of them is managing the award itself, the grant. Now you have successfully, you've been funded, so to speak. How do you move from there? Because you now have the money. The money has come to the university, and now you are supposed to execute the actual project. That is where now the dance begins, because then that is where you start realizing, hey, I have 100 million Kenya shillings. How do I manage this in a way that will help me realize the objectives, meet the objectives, but also deliver something? So if you're working with the communities, or if you're supposed to construct certain things, now this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. So how do we manage grants once we receive them? Because getting the award is just one part. Okay, so the other part is, now I have the award. How do I move from here? Okay, so after the award, what is the way forward? Because that is project management is part of what goes into all these things. So project management itself is an entire course that people get taught at universities or in colleges, where people are you just get admitted to do a course in project management. So I can't lie to you that in this training, TCC Africa will be able to train you on all aspects of project management. But we will take, or I will just take, just a small portion of that. What is the practical aspect of project management that you need to utilize, or that you can use when you are now managing the project itself. But then I will also show you one of the best tools that I've been using in project management that has made my work very easy. But I think I also talked about this, but I thought it wise to just talk about it again, even before we get further. After we have submitted our proposal, or in the process of writing our proposal, we need to understand how the reviewer thinks, okay? So we need to understand the mind of the reviewer. So as the reviewer is looking at my work, what is this reviewer looking at? What are they looking for? What questions are they asking themselves? So reviewers usually spend time, and it is also limited time, evaluating each proposal. So I gave you an example that I'm reviewing for the research fund in Serbia. I've been reviewing for them for 3 years actually, and sometimes the Serbians are still writing very big proposals. You find a proposal that is 70 pages or 75 pages, and you have to read through it. And sometimes it's very difficult. So there are key questions that we ask ourselves during the review. One of them is the problem important. I think I talked about this. There is no need of even stressing this any further. If your problem is not screaming, if your problem is not quantified, if your problem does not have a human face, it will be very difficult for me to recommend your proposal for funding. Okay, so make sure the problem is clear. We talked about situation analysis, including how to use the problem tree. Okay, is the proposed solution convincing? You've told me that there is infant mortality and 90% of children don't attain the age of 5. Okay, that's what you've told me, and you've supported that with, and then you're telling me that is now the reason why I am writing so that I can be funded to come up with this solution. I will ask myself, is this solution convincing? Okay, can the team successfully implement the project? Remember the consortium, remember the partnerships. If I look through that and you are saying one of the things you are going to do is to test a certain drug, but the people you have are people like Nicholas Outa, who are in the field of, who are aquaculture scientists. It's very difficult for me to now, so make sure the team is as important as the problem itself. If you have a very nice problem, but the team is not really competent, in the eyes of the reviewer, no, they will just throw this out. Is the methodology scientifically sound? Okay, we want to know, or as a reviewer, I want to be convinced that the method or the methodology you are proposing is scientifically sound, that will help you get the results that you are trying to look for. Okay, now is the budget justified? You don't want to give me a budget, and I will show you. I have set up examples of what we are working with right now. So I don't want you to just be throwing there, figures. You want local travels 70,000. How did you arrive at this 70,000? How many people will be going where, for how many days, at what rate per day? Okay, and will the project create lasting impact? Sustainability and scalability. Let's say it's a technology or it's an innovation. In aquaculture, there is what we call TIMPs actually. Technology, innovations, and management practices. So you can have a very good technology, or you can have a very good innovation. And technology is one that has already been tested and is now out there, rolled out, and people are using. And innovation is quite still new, so it's still being tested, it's still being validated. Management practices are, the software that runs the technology and innovation. You can have a very good technology, but if the management practices around that technology are not sound, then that technology is still going to fail. So does it have, because you could say that you are like in my field, for example, let's say you want to come up with a system that is called aquaponics. Like my research was on aquaponics. So aquaponics is where you grow fish and vegetables and the water recirculates, all that thing. But if this is what you're proposing, is it something that can be adopted? And if it is it something that can be upscaled? And what are the management practices around it that will ensure that beyond the project, the community can keep using it? So if you've come up with a technology that communities cannot repair by themselves, for example, how are they going to work? That they have to come to you all the time to do troubleshooting. Let's say 5 or 6 years down the line, how will that work? So these are the things you need to look for, okay? Reviewers are looking for reasons to fund a proposal, but they also look for weaknesses that increase risk. So as a reviewer, as a researcher, you must write proposals that make the reviewer's job easy by being clear, logical, and evidence-based. Okay, so you remember we talked about evidence-based. Evidence can only be gotten from literature. So you have to read around and see where is the evidence that this is a problem. It could be a problem in your own eyes, but if you tell it to someone else, they will say, but I don't think that's a problem. Well, why are you convinced that it's a problem for which a solution is needed? Then you tell them, those things are not there. Okay, so that is in a nutshell. I will just bringing us back to, so that we don't forget every time we are writing. Okay, so let's say now you have been invited to present your proposal. Okay, you are writing a proposal. There are funders these days that will even call you to present your proposal. They will tell you, fine, we have gone through your proposal. In fact, we did this to one of the calls. I will not mention the name of the funder, but one of the calls that we are currently still working on, we were called upon to actually present our concept, not the proposal itself. That is when now we have now gone into co-creation with the funder. So you co-create. The funder is bringing in some technical people, because you have convinced them that you have a good concept. Then now you work together, you develop the proposal together with that team. Okay, so when you are called to present your proposal, a clear, confident, and engaging presentation helps to communicate your ideas and win support. If you appear there like you are unsure of whatever it is that you are doing, because questions will also come. Nobody wants to waste their money. So I want to be sure that this person actually knows what they are doing. And this is what I always tell people, even for consultancies, that we'll talk about maybe in 2 or 3 slides later. One of the things that you need to do, and if you feel like there's someone within the team who is confident enough to present this, or who is eloquent enough, or who is informed enough about whatever it is that you're presenting, you don't have to insist, even if you're the team lead. You can easily tell them that, Professor so-and-so is the team lead, but our team is going to be represented by so-and-so in the presentation. And then all of us will now be answering the question. So you don't have to insist, especially if you feel that there are still gaps in your own understanding of what is happening. Okay. Now, there are some tips here for an effective proposal presentation. Know your audience and tailor your message. You've written a very good proposal to the county of Muranga, okay, county government of Muranga, and they have told you, okay, you say this is something that is going to enhance food security within Muranga, okay. So is it possible for you to come and present this to us in Parliament or at the governor's office on Friday? And then you go there with a very technical presentation with very, jargon and technical and scientific terms. They will listen, yes, but it will be difficult for them to get what you are. So know your audience. So if you are presenting, let's say, to a very highly scientific audience, adjust your language depending on, or your message depending on the audience. Okay. Keep your slides clean, simple, and visual. These days, nobody wants to read words that you want to go and copy paste from Word, Times New Roman, font 12. And I'm squinting because I'm sitting at the back. I'm squinting, reading through your proposal word by word. And sometimes the problem with having overcrowded slides is some people read faster than you. So you are reading through because if you copy and paste, then you are tempted also to read. So as you read through the screen, someone at the back has already read, and they're now back on their phones. So keep your slides clean, simple, and visual, okay? Tell a compelling story from problem to impact, okay? A very simple flow. What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How will you do it? Where will you do it? So what? And also who will be involved in between if you have to. So don't go around beating around the bush, okay? Stay within the time and highlight key points. If you are told that the governor is about to leave, so we're only giving you 5 minutes, or we're only giving you 10 minutes, make sure you stay within the time. Or they could be seated, they could be interested, they could be listening. But if they feel like you are, overshooting your time, then, you start having issues, okay? Anticipate questions and be ready with clear answers. You might not know the exact questions that you will be asked. In fact, if your presentation is very clear, then you will have very basic questions, okay? And with a strong call to action, okay? So let's say you are presenting on something, and then you could end by saying, this is the chance for our community, or this is the chance for our county to change the lives of the people of Muranga through A, B, C, D. You see how you have ended it with a call to action. Now you are challenging them. That in my case, I have presented the solution. So it's up to you to pick it and run with it. So I'll be waiting for you to send me money, okay? Practice, prepare, and present with passion. Your presentation can turn your proposal into a funded project, okay? So don't go there fidgeting, like you're not sure what you're doing, these things. I know we get anxious, and that's true. I've presented, many times, but I still also get anxious sometimes when you want to present. It's normal. So don't show it. People will think you are confident, even if you are shaking inside. If you don't show it outwardly, I will not see it. If I look at your body language and you portray confidence, then I will think you are confident. Okay. Now, the structure of your presentation can change, but generally you have an introduction, who you are, your institution, and the project title. So you would say, I am so-and-so, I work with this organization, and this is why today I'm here to present something on this and that, okay? Problem and justification. What is the problem, why it matters, and for whom, and how then will you solve that problem? What objectives do you have? Methodology and work plan. How will you achieve your objectives, okay? Budget and resources, what you need and how you will use it, and the expected impact and conclusion. That is very important. What will be the impact? The county government wants to invest 100 million in your project, in your grant, or as a grant to your project. How will this impact on the lives of the people? And if this person is a politician, I'm not saying that scientists should be political, but find a very nice way of appealing to him that, we are going to reach out to 100 people. When politicians start hearing numbers, they see money, okay? So that was just, I was just mentioning that in passing. Now, we have now received the money. Our proposal was successful. Why can't you even say congratulations to all of us? Okay, so our presentation, our proposal was successful. I think this is always the sweetest email that a researcher receives. Okay, so how do we manage now the grant? We have the grant, we have the money. How then do we manage it? Because if we don't work smartly, you end up having a lot of issues. Okay, so how do we manage the grant? So here, basically, we are going to talk about the grant management life cycle, interpreting agreements and donor expectations, how to establish effective financial administrative systems, projects implementation efficiency, monitoring the project performance, technical and financial reports, compliance throughout the project, and successful close grants while maximizing impact. So we need to think about how then the whole research cycle, the whole grant management life cycle, how do we manage the grant from the time we receive it to the end, okay? And each node has its own complexities, or it has its own ways of operation, okay? So we have the grant award. So we have just been given the money. That is the first step. So we have received the money, or we have, maybe the money has not come, but it has been awarded, okay? So we have already been awarded, so we have received an email, okay? An email with some documents. The first thing is grant agreement. So you sign grant agreement between the institution you work for, or between yourself and the donor. And sometimes there are also MOUs. So if it's a partnership where you have several partners, or it's a consortium of several universities or colleges or institutions, then there is the MOU, or the grant agreement now also binds the donor to the different institutions that are participating. Now, in some cases, you find that the donor, the grant agreement is one, that is binding the donor to, like when you work in EU-funded projects, you find one grant agreement, and then now each year the relationship, or the contracts are now included for all the partners. But sometimes you find that there are some grants where each partner in the consortium will have their own separate agreement with the donor, or you find that partners have their own MOUs among themselves, okay? So it depends on the nature of the award, okay? Then we start the project. So there is the first phase where there is setting up all these things, inception meetings, and all the other things, and setting things just just setting up the place for the project to start. Then we get into the implementation, where we are now going out to the field, we are collecting data, we are installing facilities or procuring things and stuff like this. So that is the implementation part. We'll talk about each of these. Then there's the financial management. Financial management is where now we've started spending the money. Do we know where which expenditures are allowable, which ones are eligible, which ones are not, and stuff like this. Who is managing this for us? And remember, when I was saying at the beginning that there is a certain amount of grant that you get, and if you are not an accountant, or if you are not a finance person, then just get an accountant for the project. Some people even employ accountants, and if you have a university or an institution where there are accountants, you would rather just involve them from the beginning, depending on the amount of money you're applying for. So it's a good thing to have a finance person in your project. I know what I am saying. And if this finance person is also an auditor, if they have skills, auditing skills, that will be even better for you. So that as you spend the money, this person keeps telling you, you cannot spend there. If you want to spend, or if you want to procure something, this is the correct route. So that you don't, at the end when auditors come, you don't have problems. Otherwise, you are a medical, you are in the field of medicine, or you are in the field of public health, or you are in the field of agriculture. You don't know much about accounting. You end up spending money in areas that are not allowed by the project. And then you have a problem at the end. Now, this problem will not only affect you, it will affect the institution. So the donor will tell the institution to refund their money, or the institution will be on your neck. So what happens is the institution will take money and pay them, and then they will cut it from your salary. Okay? Then there's monitoring and evaluation. Sometimes we do it internally, sometimes the donor will send people to do it. But let's say we are doing it internally. How do we know that we are on track? How do we know that we are doing whatever needs to be done? We are on track in terms of deliverables, milestones, and also whatever needs to come out of the project. Okay? Then reporting. So there's the technical reporting and the financial reporting. So the technical reporting, sometimes depending on the length of the project, and also the grant agreement will also spell how then you are going to be reporting. As an example, sometimes these big projects, like there's a project we ran and it was funded by EU, it ended in April. We had 16 partners and we had 9 work packages, and each work package had sometimes even 12 activities. And of those 12 activities, some of them had 1 or 2 deliverables. Imagine if you are the one, like I was the one managing that project. You can imagine. You are out in the field, you see a notification that there's a meeting, you didn't even, sometimes it can be tricky. So I'm going to show you a tool that I use for that, and I can, go ahead. I always train people, and I even set up those workspaces for them. I know some of you already know about Trello. We are coming back to Trello. So reporting depends on because each work package has its own deliverables, and or each activity within those work packages have their own deliverables. So you know that work package 3 has 3 activities or has 7 activities. What are the deliverables for each activity? Okay, so the format of reporting has also to be spelled out, so you know how then do you report. Some of these projects, like the EU we were running, had a reporting template. So when there's deliverables, you just put it into that template and do a good report and send. Now, the other bit about reporting that I wanted to say is some projects will ask you to report, quarterly, sometimes biannually, sometimes annually, depending on the length of the project. So if the project is going to run for 3 years or 4 years, for example, they will tell you that every 3 months or every 4 months, we want a report. Okay. Now, if the project is divided into work packages, then you realize that there are work packages that will be running from month 1 to month 2, or month 2 to month 7, or some of them will be running from month 1 to month 42, depending on the nature of activity or the nature of the work packages you are working with. So be clear on these reporting regulations and frequency. Okay, you don't want the donor or the coordinator to be writing you emails all the time asking you for reports. Okay, and then the financial reporting, sometimes as you send the technical report, is always accompanied by the financial report, because this is what we have done during this period. So we've done this in the last quarter. This is the money we have used, and this is how we have used that money. Okay. Then there's the audit and compliance. So audit is where now the money, the donor will come just to see whether you used the money for what you purported to have used the money for. Okay. So if you said that you bought some lab reagents worth this amount of money, how was the procurement done? Did the procurement procedure, follow the right, policy that are allowable by the donor or by the institution you work for. So this is just about an audit. And then there's a grant closeout. So grant closeout is where we are now finishing. We are closing down, we do our final reporting after the audit and everything, and then we say, adios, muchachos. Let's meet again in another project. And then there's sustainability, where beyond that, what goes on after that, okay? So good grant management drives impact, builds trust, and secures future funding, okay? So if you manage your grant very well, then you know that the donor already, or the funder, will trust you. Not just the funder alone, but even the people you worked with in the consortium. They will say, working with so-and-so was very easy because then we didn't have a problem. Like the coordinator, let's say, like the project we were doing, the EU project, the coordinator is from Germany. So the professor from Germany, because then if there's a problem, then they are always on the coordinator's neck. They will be like, this partner prevail upon this partner to give us the report. This partner's embezzled our funds and stuff like this. So if you bring issues, or if you introduce a lot of problems to the project as a partner, next time no one wants to work with you. Okay, so I think that is one thing that is important. So if you get a chance to work as part of a consortium, put your best foot forward. Okay, if your best foot is the left one, put it forward, so that next time people want to work, they will, when they hear your name or hear the name of your institution, they will say, that's a good institution. We worked with them and they made our work very easy. Okay, so, okay. The first thing is understanding the grant agreement. Okay, so every successful project begins with understanding award conditions. Okay, this money comes with conditions. Let no one lie to you. I think most of us, we even talked about it yesterday, okay? So read through the grant agreement. It could be an MOU between you and the other partners, but most of the time, it is the MOU that the donor, it binds you with the donor, okay? So you need to understand what is contained there. What is the scope of work? Because this is what happens. If you're in a consortium, each partner will have their own tasks. Okay, I will show you how our project was arranged. So you have your own tasks. So let's say you are the task leader. Like when it is divided into work packages, you find the work package lead, and then within the tasks, because each work package has its own tasks. Those tasks are activities, so to speak. So you have work package 9, for example. The lead is Maseno University, and then within the work package, then there are tasks. So this work package lead will monitor or will ensure that all the tasks within that work package are accomplished. Okay, so if the other task leaders are not doing what they're supposed to do, it is the work package lead who is going to prevail upon them and tell them, I want the report for this task, I want this task accomplished, and stuff like this. So know the scope of work and know where you need to fit in and where you are going to collaborate with other people. So it could be a very big project, and then you realize there are people who are going to do maybe just going to develop softwares. Maybe you are going to construct ponds and stock and collect data, and then this data is going to be fed into that software. So you are not really going to be actively participating in the development of the software, even though you are part of the big project. Okay, so understand your scope of work and plan for it accordingly. Okay, then you also need to understand the project activity, the project objective. Sorry. So even during the writing, sometimes people get invited or get included later on. Sometimes people get included even after the award is the grant is awarded. So you are not there during the writing process, or sometimes the whole thing took too long and you've forgotten about the objectives. So go back and revisit the objectives very clearly, just to be sure. Okay. Then also understand the budget ceilings. Okay. Understand which budget lines are acceptable, which ones are eligible, which ones are not. Just understand them, because they will spell them out. In the agreement, they always spell it out. Expenditures on A, B, C, D are disallowed. Okay? They will make it very clear so that you know. Or if you are purchasing or procuring an item or an equipment or a service beyond this, then that to go through procurement. You can just not go to purchase it directly. Just make sure you understand, the rules around the budget, okay? And also the approved activities. So under each work package, as I said, or if it's not into work packages, if it's a small project, then there are activities. Know those activities and the deliverables from all those activities, okay? Then reporting schedule. I talked about this. make sure when you are reading the grant agreement, understand how often do we need to, what is the frequency of reporting, okay? Do we need to be reporting every 3 months? Do we need to be reporting every year? Do we need to be reporting? Is there a template, for example? What goes into a technical report? What do they expect in a financial report? These are the things that you need to understand even as you prepare for. Oh, sorry, I got muted. So even as you prepare to start your work, okay? Then there's procurement rules. I talked about this already as well. So in the grant agreement, you need to know how, what are the procurement rules? If I want to procure an equipment, for example, what rules do I follow? Does the funder or does the donor allow me to follow the procurement rules set out by my institution, or do they have their own procurement rules? Okay, because you don't want to spend money on an equipment that is 10 million Kenya shillings, install it, and at the end, when the auditors come, they will tell you no, but then you did not follow the right procedure. You didn't procure them through the right procedure. You don't know what you will do with that. So, and where you're not sure, make sure you communicate. Just ask them, we want to purchase this, or we want to order this, we want to import this. How do we go about it? Okay. Then the payment schedule. The payment schedule is in two ways, and most of the time is just how many times will the money be coming to you every year or every month disbursement. So sometimes they tell you we'll be giving you money after every reporting. So if you are reporting quarterly, so after every quarter, we are going to disburse a certain amount of money. So you are told 30%. After that, we are giving you another 10%, just like that, like that. Then there's what we call intellectual property rights. I wish I had the leverage to show you some of these things, because all these things I'm talking about are from one of those big projects that we were running. So I just got most of the information from there. But I'm just picking what is important. Intellectual property rights. You remember yesterday, one of the participants was saying that the problem that sometimes comes in when the industry or private, institutions fund research is if something is developed out of it, who owns the property rights? Okay, so intellectual property rights must be understood. You need to understand that if an innovation comes out of this project, this is how the patenting is going to be done. This is the ownership. Who owns? Because when we were starting the project, or when we were getting into the grant agreement, we were asked whether we have the foreground and background properties. So, what are you bringing to the project already? Is there anything that you already have, like a property, intellectual property that you already generated even from a previous project, but you think will be useful to this current project? So you register them already, and how they will be utilized. And there was also an agreement on, in the event that we develop something that, a patent or something that, an innovation or a technology, who owns it? Is it co-owned? And what percentage? All those things were already spelled out, okay? There is branding and visibility requirements. Very important. You need to understand that every project, sometimes donors have their own way of branding. So if it's EU as an example, there's a way the project is going to be branded. So the project has a name, for example. So you'll find the project has a name, the project has a logo, the project has a website, the project has all these things. What about visibility? How do you brand the information you are putting out there? If you are going for a conference, how when you're going to develop a rollout banner or a poster, what are the colors, the project colors, for example? What is the logo? What is the tagline? All those things. So be sure about that. And also in terms of visibility, how do we make our things visible? So there's an example where when we were in our university, we decided to create a subdomain within the actual university website just for the project alone. But we had to work with the communication team, because there is a communication and visibility team, that is a dissemination team. That is their work. So you tell them, this is what we are developing, and we want to use this to communicate something to the project, about the project. How do we package it? Has it been packaged in the right way? If it's not packaged in the right way, what do we need to change? Or how do we make it look, all that thing? So make sure you are sure about the branding and visibility requirements within the project, okay? And then there's amendment procedures. I just picked this from the agreement. I picked just the main ones. There are also other aspects to it. So in the event there's an amendment that needs to be done. So let's say you have something you want to change, or something, if you want to introduce something new, or if there's any amendment, or even on expenditure, for example. So let's say you are procuring something, and for some reason you are not able to use a certain procurement procedure. How do you amend, or how do you ask for amendments on anything in the project? Okay, so what is the procedure? Do you have to go through the coordinator, or can you just talk directly to the funder? All these things, okay? So that is what happens. You need to be sure about this, so that you follow the right procedure, or you don't do things without following the amendment procedures, okay? So what happens is, you are told that in the event that you need to change something, in the event that you need to swap activities, for example, or in the event that you want to include a partner in a certain activity that they were not allocated, because then in that case, sometimes you find that you will involve them, and then they will want to claim certain money from the budget. If you do that without following the right procedure, then what happens in that case? You are told that was not right, and you are not supposed to spend money on that. And then they will ask, why did you do this activity? And then you will say, I did it because so and so needed that service. But then, did you provide it for free? Then you say, no, I charged for it. Why did you charge for it and it was not part of the agreement? Then you say, we thought it was okay. It was okay, yes, but it needed to have been amended. So we needed to amend a specific part of the agreement, or a specific clause within all those things. So just make sure that the procedure is right, okay? That the procedure is followed, and it is the right procedure for amendment. So read the grant agreement very well and understand it, okay? Don't just assume, don't just scratch on the surface, because you might end up missing out on very crucial things, and then you keep working, and at the end you are told, did you read this? Why did you do this? And you start having issues, okay? Read the agreement before spending the first dollar, basically, okay? So don't get excited by the money. Okay, money excites people. Maybe not people. Money excites me. But don't just start spending before you read. You might end up spending in a place you are not supposed to be spending. Okay? Then you start having issues. Okay? Then how do we start? So we have read the agreement, we have understood all those things. Okay? So there's this project startup and governance. So from here, we are going to look at each and every section. Okay? So strong projects begin with strong systems, okay? So in the first place, the startup is about the inception meeting, work planning, team recruitment, stakeholder engagement. So we are just starting out, okay? So this is where we have the inception meeting, and the inception meeting is where you are going to bring together researchers, you are going to bring together other partners, you are going to engage stakeholders, you are going to recruit team members. So let's say you need the project needs to onboard students, for example. They need to maybe get research assistants or researchers or employees. So that is just the basically the first space. And this can also be governed by the consortium agreement. So sometimes you are told that you cannot employ somebody of this nature, or you cannot employ a total of this, or if you have employees, this is how you're going to pay them. Those things, all you know. But at the startup is just the inception meeting and work planning, so that we know what will you be doing at what. Because sometimes whatever you write in the proposal, when you come to the ground, you find maybe some of these things you need to modify. So that is what you do at the beginning, okay? So, and after that, then we have the governance structure. So the organizational structure, roles and responsibility, decision-making process, and communication plan, okay? Who is going to govern what? Who is going to do what? Okay? So I am the PI. What do I need to do? Who is the coordinator? What are the roles of this coordinator? Who is the person in charge of communication? What are they supposed to be doing? Okay? Then we set out the systems, financial systems, procurement procedures, documentation systems, and risk register, for example. I've just mentioned a few because these are some of the things that I saw in the document. Then expected outputs, inception report, annual work plan, procurement plan, and communication plan. We developed a very nice communication plan at the beginning. Okay. I don't know whether the EU grant agreement is available online for everyone to see, but it's a very robust one. That's where I was getting most of this, because it was the first project I was coordinating that was so robust that took care of every single thing. In that project, actually, it was planned in a way that if something was not captured, let's say there's a very crucial information we wanted from farmers or from adoption or about all these things, if it was not covered in work package 7, you will realize that there's an activity that is very, not similar, but very closely related to it in another work package. So you end up capturing it somehow. It was written, that project was written so well, okay? Now, strong projects begin with strong systems. I think that is what I have already repeated. So start strong. Okay, if you start and then at the in the middle you don't know who is supposed to do what, you don't even know who is supposed to be communicating because you did not assign anybody anything. All those things will come to bite you back later on. So you need to plan very, very well. Okay, so let's start with the grant financial management essentials. As I said, I'm not going to talk about every single aspect. Because project management is an entire course that people do. But I just want to talk about the key things, especially the ones that I have gotten from the projects that I have worked with. Most of this is just out of the experience I've had with projects that we have written and won, okay? And some of them we have also lost, okay? So under budget categories, sometimes I'm going to show you this because I have templates that we have, where we were writing all these things. So budget categories, we can have personnel, we can have equipment, travel, supplies, training, consultancy, indirect costs. And then under each of them now, you will have to tell us, how are you going to manage each of these? Under personnel, who is going to be that part of that personnel? How much is each person going to be paid for each of the things they are going to do? Now, like in the EU, we would pay you claim according to work to man hours. Okay, so 1 man hour is equivalent to a specific amount, okay? So when you are reporting, you're just going to report that this is so and so. These are the total number of hours they spent in the project within the last quarter, and this is how much we paid them, okay? So we had set up a very nice Google Doc where we were logging all these man hours, and then it was calculating the money automatically. It is based on, like if you are claiming man hours, then it's based on your hourly rate. So this hourly rate is either set out by the government or, so these are the things. In terms of equipment, so you need to list the equipment that you need within that. So let's say you had a list of 15 equipment of different budgets. So you need to allocate each equipment, its budget and all that. Travel, all these things. So those are the budget categories. Then financial management principles. So budget monitoring. You need to monitor the budget. And that's why I was telling you, you need an internal accounts person or an auditor, okay? Budget monitoring, cash flow management, procurement compliance, asset management, internal controls, and supporting documentation. So you need to know how will I support all this? So if I pay a casual laborer, for example, how do I support that? Because I will report that I paid 1 million out, 200,000 shillings to some casual laborers that helped us with weeding and watering the plant and planting and doing all these things over the project period. How do I support that? Okay. What are the internal control mechanisms that are there? If you're working within an institution, then it's a bit easier because then the institution has its own rules, okay? But if you are not working within an institution, let's say you are managing this by yourself, then these are things you need to put into place, okay? So the 4 tests for every expense is it allowable, okay? Within within the grant agreement. So whatever I want to spend money on, is it allowable? Is it allocable? So fine, it could be allowable, but do we have it? Is this something we can allocate to that? Or can we allocate this to something else that is more pressing? Fine, it was in the proposal, but can we ask for an amendment so that this money is taken elsewhere rather than here? So let's say in the proposal you said you needed a microscope that is this amount of money. then you realize that the institution has a microscope. So there's no need of buying another microscope. But this money, you don't need to return it. So can you ask that instead of allocating this money to a microscope, you want to allocate it to something else, but following the procedure? Okay? Is the expenditure reasonable? Because at one time, maybe if the auditor sits you down and asks, why did you spend on this? Why did you buy an off-road vehicle? Why did you buy a four-wheel drive pickup truck, for example? You will tell them that, fine, we had budgeted for this, but it was unforeseen. We ended up, we realized that the places we were going to could not be accessed using this small car. So we say, why don't we just buy a big one? Okay? And is it documented? So is the expense allowable, allocable, reasonable, documented? So if the answer to any of this is no, go back and recheck that expense. Just check it again. Because if it is not documented, for example, or if it is not reasonable, you will be having problems, okay? So I think I talked about that stewardship of grant funds builds donor confidence. So the donor will look at you as somebody who we can trust with our money, okay? So we don't, otherwise if you, and maybe if anybody can tell me how then this financial management has worked for them in their institution. How do you manage funds? How much does your university take or your institution take as overheads, for example? Because these are some of the things that the donor, when you're budgeting, the donor will ask for. Anybody who wants to give us an idea about where we have come so far, from the startup, where we started setting up, inception, and all these things, to the financial management bit. Anybody wants to add anything or just strengthen something? Maybe there's a point you want to clarify, or just add something to it and say, apart from this that you have said, I think this is also one thing that researchers need to be careful of when they are now managing their projects or when they are spending the money. Anybody wants to add something? I would want to also hear your voices. Does anybody want to add something before we move forward?
Yes, but Nicholas, Doctor.
Let's start with the gentleman and then the lady. Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Nicholas, this issue of allowable or eligible expenditure, can you kindly help us specify? I also do remember previously working on some projects. What kind of things become ineligible expenditure within a grant life cycle? And also these the documentation areas like documentation, which may not be quite formalized in our normal operations, but like you have just given the case of maybe people doing weeding and all that for plant fields and so on. But maybe any other, for example, maybe you are going for meetings, traveling, you are meeting people, or you are getting assistance out the field and so on. Maybe you can be a little bit more specific so that we are clear about all this, what becomes ineligible within the life cycle, and also those documentation for non-formalized transactions or procurement. Thank you.
We'll answer that by saying that different donors have different requirements or they have different definitions of what is allowable and what is not. For example, we are writing a project to Gates Foundation that is going to be funded by Gates Foundation. We went through the first process and the second one is now. Now, the Gates Foundation allows you to draw salaries from the project, and that is eligible by the standards of that donor. But the EU says that you're already employed by your institution. So what you are going to do, you cannot even claim more than 8 hours, not more than, in fact, you cannot claim more than 8 hours. In fact, if you're working for 8 hours, you cannot claim more than 4 hours in a day from the project because we are already employed by the institution. So if you say that, if in your budget you say, I paid myself salaries or we paid ourselves salaries, they will tell you that is not eligible because that is not allowed by the EU. But another donor will tell you there's no problem. You can draw salaries from the project. So it's very difficult to answer what is eligible and what is not. It depends on the donor. And that's why the grant agreement is a very important thing. If it is not included as at the time you are signing, ask them that in our budget we had put this. Is it allowable if you're still doubting? So whatever is eligible and what is not depends on the person giving the money. And just as I've given you an example, it could be allowed by one, could be disallowed by another donor. So it depends on who is funding the project. What documentation also goes back to the institution sometimes. So, and this is why I was saying that we need to have an accountant, somebody who understands how accounting works or how the financial field works. If you are not a finance person yourself, so then you will tell them, fine, we went to the field, we went to the lake to do sampling, and we worked with some fishermen. How do we work around that? So there are organizations or there are donors that will accept a petty cash voucher. You just get a petty cash voucher, and then that petty cash voucher will be allowed. You just write, and the person who offered the service will sign, and then they will accept it. Now, there are organizations that will even just allow assigning a schedule, so a payment schedule, where people just sign that this is the activity, we went for a training, okay. These are the people who attended, this is how much they were paid, and this is the total. Some institutions will allow that. But if you are in doubt, go to your institution. Let's say you work for, KEMRI, for example, Kenya Marine and Fisheries. Go and tell them this is an activity we want to carry out. How do we account for it? Because some institutions will tell you, use the rules, the financial rules within your institution. I'm giving you the money, but when you are reporting to me, make sure you just report according to the standards of your institution. So you have to abide by what is allowable by the specific donor. Emma Mateka, you have your hand up. I'll see if there's someone else. Yes, Emma, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. for the insightful presentations. I just wanted to emphasize the need for an accountant in any project, because there are things that the other team members may not understand. And particularly, I want to point out to the fact that sometimes when you have a joint project and the monies that are being sent to the institution are in different units. For example, we may get dollars or the sterling pounds, but then we are supposed to use them in the local currency. Then an accountant is very important there so that they could be able to assist in translation and also in preparation of the financial reports. Thank you.
And I also want you to throw in your thinking about the allowable and what is not allowable, just what your thought is and what your experience has been with the different donors. Maybe without mentioning the exact donor, but what has your experience been? Emma,
Okay.
eligible and ineligible expenditures.
Yes, for different donors, there's what they regard as what is allowable. And there are some donors who, for sure, as you've explained, that they won't mind you drawing a salary from the project. But then there are those others that would not allow that. And the only thing that you would get probably is when you get involved in the activities, and that will be as per the stipulated rates. So you cannot go beyond what is stipulated as per the institutional policies or even as per the government policies. And that is very, very key. Otherwise, there will be audit queries. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that. So be sure the donor you are dealing with and how they react. I've seen Wanjala, I don't know whether the name is, there was another hand up, it has disappeared. So please go ahead. We are discussing, this is where we share.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope I can be heard.
You are very clear.
I just wanted to share something on this what's allowable and accounting for time. We have had a project with the University of Helsinki and the Finland Futures Center, together with Strathmore University as a local collaborator. It has to do with teaching. Actually, we're working with the Global International Teaching and Learning Network, but the funding came from EU. And I remember that when we were working with them, they actually gave us, or it was a requirement that we account for our time, they gave us time worksheets that they had developed. Our university did not have. I'm from the University of Nairobi. They didn't have that requirement. They didn't have them. So they had to adapt that method. We developed time worksheets. They sent us their own time worksheets, and we customed them to our university. So that because that is the only instrument that they could believe that we have spent the time. So, and they were paying for the amount of time that you have spent working on their project. And they were very strict, believe me. If it was a meeting, for example, with them, they would count it as your effort towards the project. But if it was your own internal meeting, because we had to meet as the local team, and you put it on the time worksheet, they tell you, no, please remove that particular time element because we were not involved. That was your own internal affair. So the point I just wanted to add, in addition to what has been said, is that very often the donor may actually also have their own instruments that they use for accounting. Like in our case, they gave us their time worksheets as templates, and we just filled in now the time we were doing and the activities that we were doing related to that particular project.
Thank you for adding that. I had the same experience as I was talking about the project with 16 partners that I was coordinating. And also, I think one thing I've said, I think this where Genevieve was saying that she's also trying to, implore us to have accountants in, because this is what we call man hours. That is what EU says. So you have 17 man hours or 17 man months. How do you convert a man hour? It's not the same hours that we have, all those things. So there's a bit of complications there. So you need, even within the grant agreement, to know, if we talk about 1 man hour, what does that mean? Or if we have 12 person months, for example, what is a person month? You understand? So those are the things. So we have to understand what they mean. Yes, Mary's hand has been up. Mary, I want you to say something. I know your hand is getting tired. Mary Kanyi. Hello, Mary, you are muted if you are speaking. Hello? Mary, can you hear me? Your hand is up. Okay, so I think we have agreed that this financial thing, I'm seeing 2 hands. Let me just see if there's any other new hand. I think Genevieve has talked already. There is someone. Yes, Hezron Awandu.
Yes, Doc. Thank you for the great presentation, and I think this is very clear. Maybe just to add on something there on the allowable expenses. I think on this there is always a need to ensure that there is compatibility between the host institution and the donor who is funding. I was just thinking aloud. In some instances where the donor approves, for example, what you mentioned earlier on the drawing of some. What if it's the vice versa? Like the donor accepts that you can draw your institution does not allow. So it becomes a bit tricky, and maybe you may start thinking in the line of maybe diverting or having other items that can be used to actually account for this money. So I don't know whether you've ever experienced the same, or anyone of us in the team. So in that case, there could be need to always ensure that the host institution policies align with also the donor agreement. Yes. Thank you. Over to you, Doc.
For bringing that up, I think it's a very valid thing, because you have committed to something and then you take it to the university and then the university say no, but then you said that because as an example, there is the overhead is always like 15% for most universities in Kenya. But I have seen researchers negotiate. You go and tell them, hey, this is a very small funding. For example, if you take 15% of it, then there's nothing I'm going to do in the field. So can the university please charge me just 10%, and then I can now use the other money to implement the project. So this is where, as a researcher or as the one managing this grant, you have also to be creative in certain ways. So if you realize that there's money that is going to be left here, and there are activities that maybe if we do, we will not be allowed to, then you can now say, why don't, if an amendment can be done that this money can now be used to purchase an equipment, for example. It was not there initially, but you can negotiate around this. And this is why I'm saying that when you are taking this MOU to be signed by your institution, so that you are taking it to the VC or you are taking it to your director or CEO of your research institution, make sure you have read it. And in the event that you feel there's a clash between the policy of the university and that of the donor, bring it out with your elder, or with your, not your elder, with your superiors, and ask them, how do we navigate through this? The donor says this, but I know the institution says this. How do we get a compromise? Because that is the only, if you want to try to negotiate it by yourself, you will end up having issues. So bring it to the attention of whoever is going to sign this contract and tell them, when I was reading this, I have noticed this. How do we negotiate? Because then they can now negotiate on your behalf and say, they can negotiate something on your behalf. Yes, Moses.
Yes, thank you, Doc. Good morning to you and dear colleagues. Actually, just sharing what you've mentioned and what the other colleague had mentioned before, just to share the experience. I work at Makerere University, and we also have a similar kind of situation, which I just needed to bring to the attention of colleagues, is that when it comes to, for example, donor funding, if you're receiving funding for a project, it is a must that you need to, there's a certain percentage that the university retains. I don't know whether it's kind of a tax or something, but they retain that amount of money. So that means that when you're looking at these agreements, you need to make sure you take care of that and inform the donors as well. And in case it's something that has not been covered in any case, then you need to make sure that it is clearly stated. And sometimes, actually, there have been cases where colleagues have lost projects or withdrawn from projects, or the donors themselves withdrawing because that they were not aware of that. And I also have a colleague with whom I worked on a project, and at one point there are some payables that were made which were supposedly not acceptable. It was with I think it was with the people from the Netherlands, and they asked for refund. They asked all the members in that. They wrote to them individual letters, and they were supposed to refund a certain amount, or the investor had to do it on their behalf. So what you're saying is something very serious that we need to think about carefully and understand these agreements before we get involved seriously in accepting the grants out of excitement sometimes.
Thank you, Moses, for bringing that to our attention. When you bring those practical experiences, then we know that these are things that are happening. So that before we get into these pitfalls, we already know that this is a potential thing that can happen. So take your time and read. Even if it's just 100 million Kenya shillings, it could be some good money. Read through it, especially the money. These other things, the technical reporting and all those, fine, I'm not telling you not to read them, but those ones you can always find your way around. But if you spend money on something that is not allowable by the donor, my friend, you are in problems. You are in big problems. So it's about the money. Get an accountant. Sometimes these people will not even want you to add them too much money. They're already paid by your institution. Just tell them, I want to be part of this project. This is how we are going to work around it. So every month, when people are drawing salaries, I will find a way of putting you somewhere, and I'm going to give you some money. They will always be excited to get something out of it. So get an accountant to do these things for you. The other thing is the overhead fee is 15%, at least in my institution is 15%. So they take 15% of the budget. So the reasoning is that they are helping you manage the money. They are providing other things that just to make your project flow by the project being in the institution. So they are taking this 15%. just to manage that. And you have to make it very clear when you are budgeting so that the donor knows that there's a 15% that will not even be accounted for. The university will just say 15%. That's it. I've seen Jacob's hand is up before you. So Jacob, you will say, and then we move forward. I think this was a very good.
May I add something, please?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, add something, then Jacob will close.
Okay, this is what I wanted to add. You have emphasized that we inform the accountant, and I agree with that. We work with the accountant, but there is another officer that you are overlooking that is also very important, especially when it comes to the initial stages, and that is the legal officer. Like in the University of Nairobi, we have a legal officer who was very helpful, especially in reading the document that had come from them before even our Vice Chancellor was able to sign. So don't forget the legal office as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, because sometimes it's written in a language that an aquatic scientist might not really decode and get all these things. So thank you for bringing my attention to that. Yes, it's true. You need a legal officer because this is a legal document. So it's a legally binding document. So if they sign something and then they will say, we did not understand, then they will be like, did you have anybody to read this for you? So yes, the accountant, the legal officer, yes. So maybe the legal officer, you might not want them throughout the entire implementation project, but at the beginning, at the time of signing this, even after you read through, share with the legal officer also to read through, because then they are going to ask you, okay, I know what the university provides for. This one is going to be a conflict. So then they will help you, how then can we maneuver around it? They can even try to restructure the writing just in a way that is allowable by the university. Yes, Jacob.
Okay, thank you very much. So about the overhead fee charged by the university, I wanted to find out if the grant doesn't allow it, how do you manage that? So if explicitly the sponsor or the donor says that no overhead charge fee for the university, how do you manage that? Thank you.
This is where you now go to the university and tell them, I am writing this proposal. This is the condition. They are saying that if you are budgeting, you have to budget for every single money, and every single money has to go into the activities of the project. They are not allowing the university to take any overheads before you waste a lot of efforts. Because if the money comes, if you tell them that, yeah, it's okay, the university has agreed, so just send the money, and then the university takes 15%, how will you account for the 15%? It could be a lot of money. So let's say 15% of 100, over maybe $100,000. That's a lot of money. So if they take this 15%, and now you have to find ways of where to hide this 15%, it can be very difficult. So in the event that you are writing and the donor says explicitly that we are not allowing anybody, we are not allowing the 15% overhead for the institutional 15% institutional overhead, go to the institution and tell them, this is what this donor I'm trying to work with is telling me. Do I proceed, or is it a problem? If they tell you that no, if they are not giving us 15%, don't write it, then just stop it there. But if they tell you that it's fine, we can find our ways around. So yes, go ahead and write and tell them we are not going to take the 15%. That is fine, so that when they want to take it, you can always hold them and say, hey, I came here before I wrote this proposal, and I told you very well that that was a condition. You said I should go ahead and write. Now the money is here. You are taking 15%. It is up to you to explain to the donor. It's the institution that will now explain to the donor, because I will write to the donor that I cannot account for the 15% because the institution took it. So then they will pick it up with the institution and say, this was the requirement. You agreed to it. You took the money. So yes, thank you for that. Let's move on again to the next section. We are going to get discussions here because today there are also 3 other things I want to show you. Now, this is now the implementation and team coordination, okay? Not a very difficult thing. The implementation is just activity scheduling. When will you be doing what? So if it's about going to the field, training people, meeting farmers, setting up experiments, so the activity scheduling. So we need to know what we are doing when. Deliverable tracking, how do we track our deliverables? So do we know, so each activity will have its own deliverable. And sometimes before we get to a deliverable, we could have milestones in between, okay? So let's say the deliverable
is a handbook, for example. So as we move towards the handbook, what are the other small milestones in between as we move towards the handbook? So we schedule the activities, we track the deliverables so we know which ones they are and when they are needed. Then resource allocation. How much are we giving for each of these activities? That is also very important. Then the stakeholder engagement, communication, all those things is just about the implementation. Then the coordination is the teams, okay? So who are the team members? What are their roles, for example? All these things, okay? How do we meet? How often do we meet? I remember in the EU project that we were running, there was a monthly consortium call. I think the coordinator who was managing this was I've never seen a team a coordinator who worked so well like this. The overall coordinator, we had what we call monthly consortium calls, where all the members would attend, give updates of where they are, their plans for the next. You do a presentation on what you have done in the last 1 month, what you expect to do in the next month, and the resources required and who will be involved. So you give up, and then every week there were meetings. So each work package would meet every week as we move towards the month. So within the month, all the work packages would have met, and you meet as a work package, and also you meet as a task. There were a lot of meetings, okay? So then decision tracking. So how do we know? Because then sometimes you would go ahead and say, so-and-so told me, or so-and-so allocated me this task. Who is supposed to allocate tasks? Is it the team lead? No, is it the work package lead, for example? Or is it the task lead? Or is it the coordinator and stuff like this? Then documentation is also very important. How do you document the activities that happen? If you generate data, how is this data going to be documented? How is it going to be handled? How is it going to be stored? And then there's what we call adaptive management. Adaptive management is where, in the event that something happens, how then do we I think leadership has to be adaptive all the time, even in this project. I was working. I think I've been working in managing some projects as a coordinator, where sometimes I have to call a professor to ask them for reports. Yeah, that time I was doing that. I didn't even have a PhD. So you call a professor and say, "Hey, Professor James, how are you doing?" "I'm okay." "Do you remember the report you are writing on task 7? "Yeah, I do remember." "Yes, so kindly send me that because it is overdue, or it is due in 2 days. I'm just calling to remind you." And then sometimes you call them the second day, they have not done it. Then you put them with pressure. And it was very nice because sometimes they would also pressure me when I was doing my PhD. So I would get that chance to call them and tell them I need it by close of day. What a nice feeling. So I'm just saying, and then what I was saying is, it's just about adaptive management. So they would not feel bad about it. They could sometimes joke about it when we are having our meetings, but then that pressure was very important for me to get what I wanted, because I was the coordinator for my university, and they expected everything delivered. So if things were not delivered, they would ask, "Nicholas, what is happening? Tell us what our next activity is. Who was in charge of this? Who was doing this?" So if I was not really harsh on some of these professors, because they get too busy and sometimes they even just forget about these reports, okay? Then you end up writing them by yourself. Now, there are several project management tools. There are the Gantt charts, which are not, because then it's very difficult to automate them. There's Trello, there's MS Project, there's Asana, and then there's ClickUp. I want anybody to tell me which one they are using, because I have used Trello for quite some time and it has worked so well. I'm going to show you a little bit of what Trello looks like for those who have not tried Trello, but I can also train you how to set up workspaces within Trello and track your activities. It's a very powerful tool. Anyway, who wants to explain how do you manage your projects, or do you just keep them you manage projects through emails and WhatsApp messages? How do you manage your projects and activities, just to make sure that everything is flowing? Anybody wants to give us the experience? It does not have to be a tool. You can even just be having your own creative internal ways of managing. Please go ahead. I will demonstrate Trello, and then if you want to learn more about it, then because it helps, especially if you're working with so many partners and so many activities. Anybody? Somebody tell me, how do you manage the projects? Yes, Genevieve.
I thought you were going to demonstrate first. Anyway, ours was very rudimentary. So we did a work breakdown structure that is somehow equivalent to the Gantt chart for the tasks. But for the data analysis, our colleague had a tool called COBOL that we used. So for us, the Gantt chart, actually, we just call it a work breakdown structure, but it is similar in essence to the Gantt chart. And for data analysis, we used a COBOL, a statistical tool.
Okay. So yes, you used yeah. So I think the most important thing is, do you have a system that is working? It could be rudimentary the way you are saying, but if it worked, then it's okay. But I use Trello because Trello allows me to arrange tasks the way I want to arrange them. It allows me to send reminders to people automatically when the task is due. It allows me to allocate people tasks. So you allocate somebody a task and then they receive an email that they have been allocated a task. It allows me to break down any work into different milestones or whether I want to call them deliverables. I can even allocate specific money to a specific action. I can even automate it to send me emails when things are overdue. You know, I can even use it and link it to Google, to a Google Doc or to anything else. So I've used Trello. And right now, I'm setting up Trello for an institution called ECARE. For those who are here who know what ECARE is, it's an institution that does research in African Great Lakes. So I'm now doing that as a consultancy. So I'll just show you what it looks like in some. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I just want to show you what Trello looks like. Also, this is just for the sake of training. So I will show you here. So this is what it looks like. So you create, on Trello, you create what we call a workspace. Once you create a workspace, you create what we call a card. So within a workspace, you create a board. So I have several boards because then the institution I'm setting up Trello for. This is actually what I'm setting up for them. So when you are setting up Trello for them, then you create a workspace. Workspace is just the house. Then within that workspace, you create what we call boards. So each activity, on each board, you can create all the activities. So you can decide how you organize your boards. Okay, so you can organize a board that is just talking about financial management, another board that is talking about other things. But so, and then on each board, so the workspace is like the house. The boards are like the rooms. So each room has something you keep in them. So let's say this is a board. I'm not going into too much detail. I'm just going to show you how powerful it is. So this is the board. And in this board, I have aligned all the work packages. So let's say this is work package 1, work package 2, work package 3. Within the work package, there are activities. So when I click on this work package, for example, then I can arrange all my activities here. So activity 1, activity 2, activity 1, activity 2. So I just, list them like that, all the activities that need to be done. Now, when I click on this activity, let's say this is the activity you want to do. When you click on that activity, you can open the activity and go ahead now to give a description. So you can describe what that activity is and all those things. Then you can add labels to it and even dates. So what is the due date for this activity? So you can say, you can click, you can set up a due date and set up if it is recurring. If it's a meeting, for example, it's recurring, you can always do that. How do you want to be reminded? 1 week before, 2 weeks before overdue, and when you save, it will automatically be sending you reminders. Then you can add members to this. So if you add a member to this, then they will see this activity. They are on this. And the good thing is with Trello is people only see where you want them to see. So you add somebody to this, then this is what they're going to see. Then within this activity, you can now create a checklist. And this checklist, for example, is like a milestone, you see? So I have milestones here. So once it is done, I just click done. And then if any document comes out of this, so I can also say whether it is priority, so priority, whether it is high priority, medium priority, low priority, so that whoever is working on this board knows the priority. Then I can put the budget allocation, how much is allocated to this. And then, so there's a lot that I can do on this, just on this alone. People can even vote, all those things. And if I allocate, let's say this milestone, I'm allocating someone to this specific milestone, okay? I can allocate someone, a team member, to this specific milestone, and they will receive an email that I have allocated this task, and I can also put the timeline for that, so that they know that this is due within this time, and the reminder is 2 days before. So within 2 days, they're going to get a reminder that it is overdue. Then after that, they get another reminder until the last day when it is going to be read, and now they have to send me. Now, the other thing, the good thing with this is I can keep all the documents related to this activity on this activity. So I just click on add, and then I can now add members. I can even add an attachment. So if there are even 1,000 documents related to this, I will attach it here. If it is a link to a website or a link to something, I will just add it here, and everyone will see that link, and then they can now be able to access it. Trello worked for me so well that they were wondering how I was scheduling all these meetings. So it's a very, very powerful tool. I will stop sharing. Anybody wants to share how they also manage theirs? I was just giving you a snippet. It manages projects very well. Go and try it out. It's not a very difficult one, but I can also train you if you want. But it's a very nice platform. Anybody who wants to tell me something? The problem why I like Trello, the good thing is, you can keep every activity. Once you are through with the deliverable, as you submit it the other side, you keep it on Trello and attach it to that activity, so that if somebody tells you, I want the report that we did on this and this and this, you just open that activity and the report is there. It's not going to get lost. So it's a very nice way of compartmentalizing your reports, so that even if you have it, of course, you have all all of them in your computer in folders, but they're also on Trello. So it's very easy. You just click the report that are associated with that. Any document associated with that specific activity is there. You just find it under that activity. Yes, Moses.
Thank you so much, Doc, for sharing that. Actually, for me, mine has been also quite rudimentary, as the other colleagues say. I've not been really the PI. I'm probably going to be one for this doctoral project I'm running. However, what happens is that with the people I've worked so far with one of the projects, the colleague where I was the co-PI, and I noticed that she was also not quite well conversant with the ICT tools. So what we were mainly using the Google Docs, Google Drive. We had a folder there which was shared, and it was we're using Across plus Google Calendars, basically the Google Suite. But from what I've just observed and what you've been doing with the Trello, I think it's a very good and effective tool. And actually, I've already signed up for it, so that I can now get to reorganize myself much better. Because with Google, you have to keep on running here and there, trying to do this or that, and it's quite manual. While here, you're a little bit automated. So I really appreciate you for sharing this knowledge about Trello. I had not known about it before. Thank you.
Yeah, I learned this when I was working as a moderator, as the submission moderator for Africa Archive. So we would receive a lot of submissions, and at one point we were like, how do we know who submitted which one has been reviewed, which one we have responded to the authors, and all those things. The authors are waiting out there. So we started to put them. In fact, I was trained by my boss then, who was managing Africa Archive, and it's a skill that I'm now using as a consultancy to get something out there, a little bit here and there. But I just wanted to introduce it to you, because if you don't share knowledge, it's not going to help you anyway. If I hold to this knowledge, how is it helping me? But yes, there is the free version of Trello, the one that I was using to manage my tasks in Maseno. It has a bit of areas where you cannot. It has a little bit of for the free version. I think you can only add up to 15 people per board or per workspace, but the premium version, you can add as many people. But then projects also don't have that many people anyway. So in fact, you just find like there are only 5 or 6 people who are core to the project. You can just always add them. So I'm not going to train on Trello now, because that was not the subject of this training. I was just showing you what it looks like. It can manage even if you have a big institution that is running several projects. I can set up a very good workspace that will everything flows very nicely. So like this one, I'm setting up for them because they have their strategic plan and they want to track how they are receiving their, and that now it is also linked to AI. So you can easily just talk to the AI and tell it, I want you to summarize for me, table this, task this, what is overdue, all those things. Anyway, so that was about the workflow management. So you need to manage your workflows. Otherwise, the donor will be asking for the report. You don't even know that it was overdue. This was supposed to be reported on the 3rd month. How did I lose track of that? I got caught up in so many other things. So you have a lot of excuses. So if you have Trello, for example, or ClickUp, or I'm still learning how to use ClickUp, but I've resisted the urge to migrate from Trello because it has worked for me so well. So Trello is free. You can join it for free, but then if you want to get very good insights, then you have to pay. I don't know how much. It's not very expensive anyway. Institutions can, in fact, even individuals can afford it. It's a very good tool. So basically, that is what I wanted to say. Successful grants are delivered through disciplined execution, clear coordination, and continuous communication. Okay. Now, the other thing that I also want us to think about, I don't know, I'll talk about it later on. I think we talked about the risks already. So there's no need of this, but it's good to know internally, because the EU project we are working, as I told you, I've picked most of these things from the EU project. It was very comprehensive. It's a document that I read because I was not there when the project was being written, but then once the award was given, it was thrown to me and I was told, read through that grant agreement and organize us, get us organized. We don't I don't care. We are going to pay for that. So that is when I now read through every single part, and I'm now trying to pull out the most important parts of what I saw in that grant agreement, because some donors are a bit lenient. Some of them do not put a lot of pressure on you, but EU projects are difficult. If you eat their money, my friend, you will pay. So what risks are there? So let's say if you foresee, for example, you understand, for example, the universities in Kenya, whoever is working with the Kenyan university, I don't know if it is across all universities. Sometimes the bureaucracy, you apply for money that you want to go to the field, and then it takes 1 month, or it takes 2 weeks before you get that money. So you want to be in the field, or you've sent people already to the field, they are waiting for you, or farmers already have been mobilized, you know those things. So that bureaucracy becomes a challenge. So it could be a risk. So you say, for example, what are the potential risks? Okay, so let's say delay in all those things. How do you go about it? Then procurement delays. This is very, very, very common. So because then procurement, you want something today, and or you want to work something that you want to work with next week, and it takes 3 months before it comes. Okay, so in this case, then you need to start early. So if you know, these are the things, how do you mitigate? You need to start early, for example, and just know that if I want this in September, I think I should procure it today. Then there's staff turnover, okay? So you have recruited research assistants, for example, or you have a student or something. What happens when they leave? So you need to know what happens in the event that someone leaves, okay? Because you can't keep them there forever. Then the regulatory changes, so there's continual monitoring. Then compliance areas, donor regulations. Make sure you comply to the regulations of that donor. There is institutional policies, including, of course, the procurement rules that are there. Then ethical approvals. Some of these donors, when you are applying for these funds, they even ask you if there is compliance, ethics compliance documents that you need to apply for, and then you attach to the proposal. Sometimes you don't do it at the proposal stage, but when they award you, they will tell you that we want that, because then that is the only way we are sure that we are going to comply. Okay, environmental safeguards, for example, data protection. Okay, I have seen most projects these days come with what we call data management plans. So in this data management plan is, what kind of data are we likely to collect? How will we handle it? Is this data public or private? All those things. So this data management plan is very important, and I know people customize them to. Sometimes you find there are institutions that will give you a data management plan. A donor will give you a data management plan, and then you have to customize it to the project and also to the institution or your country. Okay, so proactive risk management protects project outcomes, institutional reputation, and donor trust. It's always about reputation and trust, because then you will go back to them asking for money again. Okay. Then the reporting. I think we talked about technical reporting and donor communication. Okay. Now, the technical reporting depends on what the donor requires. So how often do we do these things? So activity completed. So sometimes you are told that every quarter, so you will report per quarter. So if we are reporting for Q1, for example, we will report on the activities that we have completed, the outputs achieved, the indicators, the challenges, lessons learned, success stories, photographs, and case studies, depending on the donor. So I was just bringing it out. This was based on the donor that we were dealing with that came up with this document. So they wanted that every quarter when you are reporting, they want to get what activities did you accomplish? And sometimes even a hint into the plans for the next quarter, okay? The outputs you have achieved, so if there are any data sets or stuff like this, those ones have to be. The indicators, how then do you know that you are achieving these things, okay? What challenges did you face? Were there delays in procurement, and is there a way the donor can prevail upon the university, not to bypass, but to help you fast track certain things? What lessons did you learn? Were there success stories? And in this case, we were working with farmers, for example. So if there's anything you want to document where adoption has helped increase food security or enhance productivity, then they would really heavy on photos. And these photos, these days, you must ask people, and in fact, you must have assigned consent when you're sending people's photos, okay? When you are doing community outreach or stakeholder engagement or key informant interviews or focus group discussions, don't just assume that you've taken someone's photo and you are posting it without their consent. You never know. Somebody will follow you around. Or you are sending it to EU, and then tomorrow they see themselves on the internet or on the website of EU. And then they will say, who took this? I remember it is so and so. So he took my photograph and sent it to those white men or white people to use my image to make money. I'm just trying to exaggerate, but then these are the realities of the day. So be sure that during meetings, for example, you tell people explicitly on that form that they always sign. You know, sometimes you find that it is written on that form, but you've not made it clear to them that there's something that is written on this form. So attendance sheet, and you find someone has written down there or up there that you have, do you consent that you have this, by signing this, you consent to your photo and videos being taken and used for the project purposes. Maybe you've not told me, so I've just signed without reading. So make sure that is the part of the kind of transparency that you need to have with the people you're working with, so that if they don't want their photos taken, then you know that so-and-so does not want their photos taken, okay? And then, now, under financial reports, the budget utilization, how much did you spend so far, okay? Then there's always variance analysis. In fact, when we are reporting for this particular project you keep talking about, is we were reporting whether that expenditure, if there's something that is overboard, for example, was it foreseen? There was it's called Annex 1. We always called it Annex 1. And my mentor would always talk about, I wanted to go and read Annex 1 first before we buy that thing. So Annex 1 was making it clear that these are the kind of expenditures that are foreseen that might not have been included directly into the budget, but they are foreseen. So they will ask, was it foreseen in Annex 1? Yes or no? If it was not foreseen in Annex 1, explain why this was done, okay? Then variance analysis, there's expenditure summary and supporting documents. So how do you support the expenditure? We will talk about documenting every single coin that you have used, okay? So good donor communication is about being timely, be transparent, report challenges early, request approvals before changes, and never surprise the donor. Okay, the donor is never surprised, okay? So don't surprise them. Okay, it could be a pleasant surprise, but most of the time you might end up, being surprised by their response. Okay, so this communication, most of the time after you have gotten money, most of the time the communication is just always about what you are doing. So they will just want to know, what are you doing? Are you still on track and stuff like this? And that's why they want you to periodically report to them on what you are doing, the challenges you are facing, and where you are, so that they have an idea. Also, they have that peace of mind that things are going on very well, okay? Now, audit, okay? You will be audited at the end, depending on the donor. Remember, I was telling you that there's a donor we are writing to right now who does not even want financial reporting. They only will want a technical report. They told us very clearly, we are giving you this money. There's nothing like financial reporting, but it's like we are auditing you before we give you the money. So when you are doing your budget, we want you to send us evidence of where these budget estimations came from. Okay, so if you want a microscope, where is the evidence that the microscope is $5,000 as an example? So you have to provide a pro forma invoice showing that this is the company where we have gotten this quote from. If you are going to hire local taxis, and you are saying that the local taxi is 10,000 shillings per day, and you are going to use it for 7 days every month, what are you going to use it for those 7 days? And where is the evidence that a taxi in Kenya charges 10,000 shillings per day? I hope you understand what I mean. So it depends on the donor. There are those who will not even ask you for those things, as long as when you are reporting now, you are giving them the actual receipts, okay? Official receipts. So how do you prepare for the audit? Have organized records, okay? You don't want the auditor to be asking you for this. It's not there. This, you don't even know where it is. And that's why Trello helps, because then with Trello, if you think that the physical ones or the digital ones can be destroyed or can get lost, upload them on Trello, because if you log into Trello, even when you are in Europe, you can easily download them and send them to whoever wants them, okay? Financial reconciliation, procurement files, asset register, and supporting documents. See, supporting documents is here. You bought assets, where are they? You bought equipment, where are they? Procurement, how did you procure this? Was it done in the right way? Was it competitive? Did it, all those things, okay? And then now, grant close-up. Now we are finishing. We are finishing everything. This is why we have the final technical report, the final financial report, inventory verification, asset disposal, knowledge products, and lessons learned. I want to talk about asset disposal because it becomes a very big challenge if you are working as, let's say you are a university and you installed something within a community. And this is something that the university requires. What if you go there and the community says, no, you're not taking it? If you take it, we take your foot. They disappear with one of your feet. Anyway, that is not the point. The point is you need earlier at the beginning of the project to agree on how these assets will be shared at the end of the project. Who will remain with them? Who will own them? Will they remain with the community? Will they remain with the partner, consortium partner A or consortium member 3? Things like this. So these are things that need to be very clear. Now, sustainability now is about institutional ownership, community ownership, policy uptake, resource mobilization, partnerships, and scaling priorities. I think these are things I already talked about. Good records, proper closeout, and sustained impact, ensuring lasting value and future opportunities. Now, you need to close in a very nice way. You don't want to be, at the end, you've worked so well with these partners, because what happens sometimes, you are part of a consortium and now you are writing the final product and you are told that you are supposed to write this specific section. And at the end of the day, you feel, the project is even over. So those people are disturbing me. The donor or these other partners will even reach out, even post the project. They will reach out and say, okay, do you remember this report that we wrote and you're the one who submitted it? I have lost it in my computer. Can you trace it maybe and send it to me? I want to use it somewhere. And then you say, I also don't know where that thing is. The project ended. You are disturbing me. Okay. So make sure that you have, you close in a very good way. Start very nicely and, finish even better. I have seen consortia where people work together and they end up having a lot of issues until at the end of the project, people don't even want to meet in meetings. People, you hear there is a meeting and people don't want to attend, or they attend and they're not talking to one another. And you're like, what happened here? We thought these people are, so I think these are things that we need to be alive to and agree that they happen. Anybody wants to give their opinion on anything before we move to the next section? There are 2 other sections that I want us to discuss a little bit. Anybody wants to say something? Of all the things that we have said, I want us to have a little bit of, yes, Genevieve, go ahead.
Yes, I want to say something, and we don't all work in environments that are stable and similar, so it has something to do with the risk management. Sometimes we tend to feel pressured by our colleagues from the north because they are in a stable environment. Like in our case, I want to share an example that hit us very hard. at the start of the project, we did not know that Baba was going to call for maandamano. So the data collection exercise was delayed, and it is something that the donor was not expecting. So we had to explain to them that it was delayed because of the political environment in which we found ourselves. And as if that was not enough, even after the data collection, now when we wanted to analyze the data and share the results, UASU called us out on a strike. You know, this is a research that was being carried out in the university environment. So of course we couldn't work when UASU had already called us out on a strike. I just wanted to share that so that our colleagues from, particularly those of us from the developing world, don't have to think, you don't have to think that you must be as stable as they are. No, there are things within our socio-political environment that may affect the progress of our projects. And you just share that. We are glad that the donor understood. So of course, they gave us more time, but they didn't give us more money.
Thank you for bringing that out. These things happen, so it's as you're saying, it's good to explain and be forthright about them. Don't, sometimes we fidget and say, if we just look for an excuse, because if we tell them that there was a political unrest in Kenya, I don't know how will they will give us money again another time. So don't shy off. If it's something that is genuine, just say, this is what happened. Yes, I saw Dr. Ferdinand's hand. Yes, please, Dr. Ari, go ahead.
Thank you. Mine is actually to appreciate this wonderful, very insightful presentation that has actually opened a lot of insights into the management, the implementation of grant projects. I just want to indicate that I've noted that indeed the question of proper communication framework is very, very key throughout the entire project cycle. But I just want to emphasize the project management toolkit that you presented. I wish you could be able to find more time and maybe in future to guide us through, because I realize it's a very good management toolkit that can assist proper management of an entire elaborate project. So I want to appreciate that kind of project toolkit that you presented, and if you find time in future, kind ensure that we get more insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I think you have first emphasized the fact that it's good to communicate, and that you are talking about transparent communication. I think that's how you have put it. It's very important, so that if you communicate early enough, or if you communicate and be open and say, I don't know how to handle this. We budgeted for this. This is what we have found ourselves in. We thought the microscope would cost 10,000. We've realized it's now 20,000. How do I move away? Or how do I deal with this? Because we need this microscope. They will tell you, pinch money from here, or we can negotiate with another partner who has another budget allocated. So just communicate and say if you find yourself in a place that is difficult. I'll give Janet a chance, and then Hezron. So Janet, let's start with ladies. Say ladies first, men just after the ladies. Yes, Janet.
Thank you, Chair. I want to comment on transparency again. I've had a donor funding me for 3 projects. One, the last one I just closed in January. And transparency not related to the donor because he wasn't following up so much, but since the contract was between university and them, even him of the PI, and I have a co-investigator in Leeds Beckett University. Our university is the one that was receiving the money, and we get the money from the research grant. But when it came to accounting, I remember, not for this particular project, but for the one that I closed last year, but one, when I was being audited by the audit office in university, in the past, when I pay people out there, they usually sign and their ID number, their email, their phone number, and so on and so forth. But when I was now giving the documents to be audited so that I could set the report, I could account to the donor. The person in the audit office asked me to bring the real ID cards for all the people I had paid, and there were many. And the research was covering all the regions in Kenya. Actually, let me call them all the provinces as they were before. And I had to go back and tell everybody to give me a copy of the ID card. The point I'm trying to say here is about transparency. I have heard that if I hadn't honestly paid them, where would I have gotten the ID cards? Because the
Yeah,
same thing would have happened.
you come back to me and I ask you, what I did you want? You didn't, you can't even go back to them. They will be like, I mean, you can imagine what could have happened. I don't even want to imagine.
I actually went back to those people, and fortunately, because we were in good terms and I had paid them, they gave me the copies of the ID cards, which was now a load of papers. To tell you the truth, some of them were hesitant, and I can understand why do you want my ID card. So I'm just saying this so that people get to know when you get to the field, just be transparent at all levels, even when you are procuring things. And when I brought those papers, of course, I was cleared, but it wasn't a nice experience. Again, when it comes to the donor, I remember the one I just closed this year. Since the contract with the university and the legal office, I had taken the document they signed, and of course the VC as well. But usually you outline that the funds will be released this way, and then the 10% after you have given the final report. And that 10% is the one I usually now use to disseminate the results. But this time they said, no, we are not going to release. And I told them in the past it has been like this. And so they still stood firm. Then I asked other people out of the country, they told me that currently they are not doing that. But then they were telling me, why don't you go to your legal office and tell them they signed they signed the contract, they need to release the money. I did not go that far because I did not want bad blood between the donor and me and the university. So I just let it go. But when I followed, they told me, you can just now reapply again for the 10%. But I'm seeing a situation here where the donor has retreated and the agreement had been signed. So here maybe I need people's participants maybe, or even you to tell me, is the direction I took the correct one? I did not want to go and involve the legal office to follow them. And I opted, probably I apply for the 10% to go and disseminate. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I will throw one of the things is whether you did the right thing or not. Sometimes we look at, somebody told me something. There's a time when something very painful happened to me. I'm not going to explain, but then for the context of this story, something very painful happened to me. And I had been waiting for something for 10 years and it was given to someone else. So I felt so bad about it. But then when somebody was talking to me, they told me, Nicholas, regardless of what you have lost, never forget to protect what is still left. Even if it is just some few things that are still left. I know you've lost a big thing, but don't ever forget to protect the little that is still left. Because you spend a lot of energy and emotions and chasing the lost thing that you've already lost clearly. And then you end up, destroying or even failing to protect the little that you still have that could help you. So I think you are trying to protect what is lost, what is still left, regardless of what you had lost. So for me, if you ask me, you did a good thing because the donors are out there. These are the people you are still working with the university. So then you start following them around, going back to the legal office and telling them, you signed for this, I want my money, you have to give it to me. It is escalated to the finance office. You have quarrels with the finance office, then it is escalated to the director research, for example, you quarrel them, then it is escalated to the VC, you quarrel the VC, then the donor is out there. These are the people you work with every day. So that is what was still left. So you did well in trying to protect what is still left. And you see now there's even an option that you can apply for the 10%. So if you ask me, you did well. Hezron?
Yes, thank you, Doc. And that was very informative. I just wanted to comment on the issue of the unforeseen expenses. Actually, this is a challenge at times during project implementation, because you find that sometimes somebody can, like, you could be having a plan, you could be having a budget, you could be having a work plan that you've already developed and that you wish to use. Then when you just start the study and then you realize there are some expenses that are coming up that perhaps you didn't plan for. Let's say, for instance, you want to train some farmers. Let's say some cage farmers, or maybe cage farmers along the shoreline. And now you are having the assumption that there is a BMU hall or BMU office or something like that in some of these beaches for the Kenyan case. Now you go and then you realize you already in the site, and then there's no hall, there's no office. Maybe the structures were submerged sometime and you never factored that. So you find that it is an expense that you now have to hire a hall somewhere. You have to cater for the other costs, like chairs and all that, tents, maybe, probably, if it's in the open. So these are some costs that are inevitable, and at times they could be not easy to justify on the start. So based on this, it's always good to do like a pilot study, to do like a pilot test, a preliminary activity that will foresee your future activities when you will now start the actual study. Because now, when you have already planned everything, you have the manpower, you have the resources, you have the plan according to each and every site or each and every item that you want to do. But now, things, they say that, for instance, in Kenya, they say that things on paper are not the same as things on the ground. So you might start and then you find that things have. So this pilot test will always help us in foreseeing some of these costs that are not factored in the initial implementation. And then also, there's something, Doc, you mentioned about when the project ends, you realize that some of the colleagues are not even talking to each other anymore. Is as a result of maybe there was some pressure, or there was some deliverable that was not well achieved, maybe in a timely manner or to the required standard. And this one, I think, based on some experiences, is it starts from actually the data collection. When you get the data collection right, even the reports will always align. So it always starts with testing the tools. Even during the preliminary activities like the pilot test, you test the tool and then ensure that this tool is able to answer or achieve the required objective of the activity. So this data, when we get it right from the collection point, and then also we ensure the security of this data, that would mean where it is stored. Of course, nowadays, like for Kenyan case, we are trying to go paperless. And that's why we are trying to use some of these ODKs that you can use to virtually store data, or you store data in cloud. Things like Qualtrics, things like Kobo Collect, things like we say Survey Monkey and all that. So there are several tools that can be used to securely store this data. You know, data, once it's securely stored, even if the report is not yet to the required standard, it can always be adjusted. So it is always good to ensure the security of data throughout the project period. Yes, thank you, Doc. Over to you.
Thank you for bringing this to the fore. I think the bottom line is that there will always be some challenges when you now start the actual implementation. I think one of the things you are bringing out very strongly is about the adaptive management of the project. So you say, find this where we have found ourselves. We did know that when we be coming to train these people, we would be required to pay 17 people instead of just 10 that we had planned for. How do we navigate around this so that we still get to achieve? So I think, and also the data thing, you need to have a very strong data management plan. How will you keep your data? What is the quality control? Because then, as you are saying, the report might not, even if the report is rejected, but you still have the data, the rejection comes with comments. You needed to have done this way, you need to have done this way. So you will still go back to your data. If the data is there, it is in a good state, then you can still analyze and do other things. So when these challenges come, you need to talk and communicate. Emma, please. Emma.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to emphasize the aspect of planning for sustainability before the project ends. And why I want to do this is because of the colleague who said the fund did not submit the last 10%. I tend to think that nowadays that's a very common practice. And it happens more so when we have delay in the implementation of the project activities for whatever reason. For example, whether it is maandamano or whether it is delay in the finances release or whatever reason it is, most of the funders, they look at their timelines, and at the time when the project was supposed to end, that's where they stop their funding from. So I had an experience whereby the funder insisted that we need to complete that activities before the time period for the project, which we did. But then when it came to releasing even the final installment, it wasn't easy. So after submitting the report, the donor decided the last installment to give a portion of it. So that meant some percentage was not funded, despite the fact the activities were done. So it usually becomes hard, especially if you had not integrated the sustainability of the project to the other ongoing activities within either the department or within the institution. So what saved us was the fact that most of these final activities had been made part of the usual activities within the section. And that really assisted us. So planning for sustainability, I think, can really, really save us a lot of headache. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's like, I think you're talking about being proactive. You just say, okay. In the event that something bad happens, we are not praying for a bad thing to happen to your project, but in the event that anything that I had not foreseen, and now I need, because then let's imagine if you had taken anything on credit and saying that, okay, let's just do this activity, and then when the money comes, we will pay. So you will have yourself to get that money to pay, because maybe somebody really supplied a service or an equipment. You thought the 10% would help you offset that bill, and then you realize, hey, I don't even have that money. So these are the things. Now this is the parting shot. In all that we have discussed, read and understand the grant agreement. Read it and understand it. And the good thing is, one of our colleagues here already said, even if you are reading it with an accountant and all those things, make sure there's a legal mind looking at it. Because this legal person, the university legal officer, knows the policies of the university. So they will see whether it aligns with the policies of the university. If there are areas where there are misalignments, they will always point it out and say, but you see, in this agreement, they are saying this, but this is what the university provides. So this is conflicting. So this is how then we can maneuver around it, okay? Build a strong governance and financial system. Because if you don't build strong governance and financial systems, then it becomes a very big problem for you to manage the actual project, okay? Spend according to approved budgets. I think that is what we have been preaching here all the time. Monitor progress continuously, document every activity and expenditure, okay? There's a project that we did, and it ended almost 3 years ago. Yesterday, not yesterday, I think it was 3 days ago, on Friday last week, I received an email asking me for a poster that we presented in a conference. I don't know what they want to do with it, but they are saying they're documenting some of the outputs from the project and they forgot to. So if you don't have that poster, what will you say? Okay? Communicate openly with donors. Communicate. If there is a delay because of a problem, you don't have to wait for them to write you an email. Just tell them we were supposed to carry out this activity this week, but then this happened, so we are pushing it to next week. Okay. Ensure compliance throughout the implementation. So compliance with the donor requirements, the institutional requirements, ethical clearance, compliance, and all these things. Then prepare for audits from day one. Don't wait until it's the end, then you start arranging things, looking at, still trying to find receipts to authenticate certain transactions and, those things. Start from the beginning. Every time you spend money or every time you do an activity, make sure that if you pay the people, they signed a signing schedule, a payment schedule, or attendance list, whatever is required. Keep it very well, knowing very well that I'm doing this because I will be audited, okay? Now, plan sustainability before the project ends. I think the Emma said this very clearly, that we need to we need to have a foresight of what is likely to happen at the end, okay? Effective grant management turns funding into measurable results, started partnerships, and opportunity for future investment. I will stop this here. We take a break of 10 minutes, and then we come back for the last part of this training. So as you come back, start thinking of if there are questions and other things, and then we will see. So let's just go for 10 minutes. Kevina, take us for a break and tell us when we are coming back. Okay, Kevina, are you here? If not, then we are coming back. Let's come back after 10 minutes. So 11:17 on my end. So let's just take 10 minutes and then we'll come back for the last part of the trade. Well, good people. We are back, and I hope you got a chance to just get out of your chair, get some drinking water, a glass of water to drink, and I hope it is sincerely water. So, so I think we have discussed very pertinent issues, because sometimes we talk about how to write a good winning proposal, and then after the funding, so what? So we have gotten the money. How do I manage? How do I navigate? So people have been sharing their experiences. Now, there's one thing that I forgot, and I think it's very important that I talk about this. As you are budgeting, budget for publications as well, especially if it is a research grant or a research, if it's a research proposal you are budgeting for. I have seen this as a challenge to many researchers. There are some donors, like the EU, for example, that will say that if a publication is any publication that is out of that project or that out of that grant has to be open access, and it has to be in a specific level of journals. So these journals charge very expensively. There is one of the papers we published around a month ago that cost us 500 and I think it was it was an equivalent of 540,000 Kenya shillings. So that's around $5,000. Yeah, around $5,000. So it was around $4,700. That's quite a lot of money. So if you don't plan for these things at the beginning, and then the results are out and you want to publish, if you publish and the paper is hidden behind a paywall, EU will not consider that as an output of that project. They will tell you, we are not counting this because it is hidden behind a paywall. The rule was that you have to publish open access, and open access is expensive. So as you plan, as you collect, as you do the budgeting, make sure that you put out some money or some budget for publishing, so that when outputs or when you get your papers or when you write manuscripts, you can afford. I think the other thing that I said I will talk about just in passing is also consultancies. Okay, so consultancies differ from research grants. They are not really so much different in terms of how you write your technical proposal and the budget. They share a lot in common. The only thing is that research grants primarily generate knowledge, while consultancies solve specific client problems within defined timelines. Okay, so when you're writing a research grant or you are writing a research proposal, you want to be given money so that you can be able to go out there, either implement something for the community or collect data or get information or generate knowledge. But for a consultancy, a client wants you to provide solutions to a specific problem, okay? Or you need to gather a specific kind of information and give to them so that they can use it to do something. Recently, we applied for a call that was fronted by Gatsby. It was about, I'll show you part of that. It was about, we were supposed to map out smallholder farmers in Kenya and Tanzania. The result is not out yet. But what they wanted was, they are designing a project, and they wanted to know what the aquaculture sector looks like in these two countries, and especially among smallholder farmers, the challenges they are facing, the kind of production systems they have. Do they have access to market linkages? What post-harvest loss reduction strategies or techniques do they have? Basically, it was a lot of things. So a consultancy will generate information so that the client can be able to inform, but then the client is focused on what, there's what we call terms of reference, TOR. So they will tell you, this is what we want you to get. This is what we want, and this is what we want you to get for us. So it's not too different, but so when you're writing this as a consultant, you must demonstrate technical competence. So you have to prove to them that, hey, you want me to do a mapping and all these things of smallholder farmers. Yes, I have competence in that field. I have a degree, or some of them will insist that the lead consultant has to have a PhD and a certain level of experience, relevant experience, efficiency, professionalism, and ability to deliver practical recommendations, okay? So you need to build a strong portfolio and maintain professional networks that greatly will improve consultancy opportunities, okay? These consultancies, sometimes you get referrals or people rope you in. You find someone has a job and then they rope you in. So some of these consultancies you do as an individual or a consortium of people, or you work, you could be an expert and then another company. I have worked in consultancies where they were bidding, but then they needed an aquaculture specialist. So they needed someone with a CV in the field of aquaculture or fisheries generally. So they brought me in as an aquaculture expert or a fisheries expert. And that is how so it means that for you to build a strong CV or a strong portfolio, there are two things. One is you have to publish. I know some, not necessarily, depending on the field you're dealing with. But part of it is also publications make your CV strong. But also, if you have previous consultancies, you might not have published, but you have experience having done other consultancies, then that can also, because imagine if you have a CV where you have not done anything, you've never published any research, you have never done any consultancy, it's very difficult for you to win this consultancy. So start building your portfolio, and it starts, if you're a researcher, I would want you to start thinking of how to publish so that your CV has at least 1 or 2 papers, okay? The other thing is about being visible. So be visible. I train scholars about research visibility, how they can enhance the visibility of the work they do, and how they can also enhance their own visibilities as individual researchers, okay? So these are things we train people about at TCC Africa. So be visible. If you are doing, if you're a consultant, from time to time, be posting it on your LinkedIn or somewhere so that people identify you with a specific field, okay? How do you respond to TORs? Okay, there's what we call our understanding of the TOR, okay? So when you are responding to TORs, so TORs are terms of reference. So when a consultancy is floated, they will always say these are the terms of reference. So as a consultant, these are the things you have to deliver, okay? We want you to document this, quantify this, do this, do that. So when you are responding to that, the terms of reference define the client's expectations, okay? Read every section carefully before preparing a proposal, okay? Your technical proposals should respond directly to every requirement of the TOR. So if you are told to write, because then when you're responding, sometimes you are told just to write a concept first before you write the full proposal. Some consultants will say, go ahead full-blown and write a full proposal already. So when you are responding to terms of reference, make sure you identify the assignment objectives. Tell us that we understand that these are the objectives of the assignment. That is how we understand, okay? Then interpret those objectives in your understanding, that this is how we understand objective 1. Objective 1 requires us to do A, B, C, D, and this is how we are going to do it, okay? Deliverables. Make sure you explain to them that I understand these are the deliverables, okay, of this consultancy. Then the required qualifications. So because then you have to demonstrate that you have the qualifications to achieve or to give them whatever it is that they want, reporting requirement, and evaluation criteria. Sometimes you find donors or these clients will always say this is how you are going to be evaluated. So 20% for the team, 10% for whatever it is, okay? Now, never use a generic proposal without adapting to the client's needs, okay? So sometimes you find people say, we have done a lot of consultancies. I think we have a template. We just put it in there. No. Make sure even if you're putting it into that template, it conforms and it responds very clearly to the TORs and what the client requires. I think just going to, this is, so if you are writing a proposal, there's the cover letter. And the good thing is most of these consultancies these days, just like proposals, most of them these days come with templates, okay? So a cover letter is where you are introducing the company, or if you are an individual, you are introducing yourself and why you are competent. So if it is, if it is a company, then you can introduce the company, their past experiences, the consultancies they have done before, and those things. executive summary, I talked about this. It's almost like in the other one, so it can stand alone. How are you going to you have to demonstrate how you will do the work in a nutshell. So it's good to, in the executive summary, to do 1 line or 2 lines of a background, because if it's about aquaculture, then you have a background to give. So a little bit of 1 or 2 lines of background, then you say what this consultancy is about, how you are going to do it, a summary of the methodology and the deliverables that are there. Just do a bit of a summary of everything, okay? Then demonstrate understanding of your of the assignment. So that is the understanding, our understanding of the TOR, or your understanding of the TOR. Then the proposed methodology, the one that was fronted by Gatsby, already even had written very clearly the methodology that needs to be followed. So yours is just to key in the details of like the sampling side, the sampling strategy, but they already talked about the methodology that needed to be done. Then the work plan, how will you do this work? So what is the work plan? Then the team composition, who will be there, their experience, what it is that they are bringing on board. Then you can always put relevant experience of either the team members, or if you are doing as an individual, your relevant experience, okay? Then the data, there's data that is going to be, data and information that is going to be generated. So, okay, so how will quality be assured, okay? And then there's a financial proposal that is also expect you to do. So this financial proposal, most of the time, is almost the same as the one for the proposal, or for just the grant proposal. So you'll say we need 10 million shillings, okay? If you need 10 million, what will you do with the 10 million? So field work is this, paying enumerators, training enumerators, the consultancy fee, and all those things. So, and that's why as a consultant, I was recording a video yesterday on TikTok, and I was telling people that one of the challenges that most people who are just starting out in the field of consultancy face is how to price their services. When I started training people as in scientific writing and communication, you could receive an email and somebody says, "Oh, no, I want you to assist me and take me through how I can do idea conceptualization, all these things." And then they ask, "How much do you charge per session?" And then you say, "How much are you willing to pay?" Because you don't know anything. So over time, you get to realize you are losing more, because one, people think you are not even grounded, because you don't even know you are offering a service, but then you don't know how much. So you must have a rate card. Now, this I was talking about, especially when you are working as a consultant, because then they will ask you for your professional fee. Actually, in consultancy, that's how it's called. So what is the professional fee? Fine, we are going to give you money to go to the field, give you money to pay, all those things you've said. But at the end of the day, there's what we call the consultancy fee itself. Okay, so the professional fee, how much are you charging per day or per month or per week as a professional, or for that piece of work? I'm not going to tell you how much that is, depending on a lot of things. It depends on your experience, it depends on your level of maybe the academics that you have achieved, or it depends on so many things. But you must have a rate card. You must say that if somebody is taking me out today to do something professional that is related to my field, this is how much I'm expecting per day, okay? Maintain a logical flow throughout the document and ensure that all proposed activities directly contribute to the required deliverables, okay? So if it's about, you don't want to include an activity that does not align to the consultancy. So if you are going to go to the field to train farmers, okay? If you have gone to the field to train farmers, how is that linked to the consultancy? Or are you just going to train farmers and then that's it? So make sure that is very clear, okay? And then how do you build your personal brand as a consultant, okay? Often clients often select experts they already know and trust. So this is what happens. If you did a job for a client and you did a very good job, sometimes if they have another consultancy, they will approach you. But if they don't have, or if they feel that that's a consultancy, they will always say, "Can you recommend someone?" Okay? So that's the truth. And trust is very important. If you are given a consultancy, however small it is, do a diligent job. Just do a good job. I always tell people, if you feel the money is too little and you cannot do that consultancy with that money, just tell them, "No, with due respect, I would have wished to do this thing for you, but I can't achieve it with that kind of money. I will disappoint you." Here's what happens. The client will not understand that they gave you little money. If you don't do a good job, they will look at you as somebody who is incompetent. They will not know that they gave you less money. So if the money is too little and you feel that with that you cannot do a good job, just tell them, no, I'm not taking up this job. It's that simple. Okay? Develop a concise professional biography highlighting your expertise, achievements, and consultancy experience. Okay? I have, when I'm teaching people about visibility, I always share, for example, my about me page. I have an about me page which looks like a small website of yourself. That is where you describe everything. So if somebody says, Nicholas, can you send me a short biography? I want to see, or I'm writing something. You don't upload a document. You just send them a link, and then they will find everything they need about you. Okay? Your reputation is one of your most valuable professional assets. Okay? Not just in consultancy alone, but even when you interact with people. If people see you as a difficult person, or if people see you as someone who cannot be trusted, or people see you as someone who is careless or lazy, that alone, will reduce your chances of getting a consultancy. Okay? Now, build professional visibility by publishing high quality research. I talked about publishing. Maintaining an up-to-date academic profile. You need to be presenting at conferences when you get the chance, because that is if you, let's say we've gone to a conference where there are so many people from different fields, and I presented something about aquaculture, for example. If someone saw that during that conference, and there is a need in their institution, or they know of our opportunity, they will say, okay, there's someone I know. We met this person in a conference in Rwanda, and I think he's a very good person when it comes to that kind of technology that you are trying to, you see. So also participate in professional associations, network with development organizations, and also just to be present sometimes also on some of these social media platforms, and especially LinkedIn is a very good place. So don't just create an account on LinkedIn and be silent about it. Right now, from yesterday, I posted about the training yesterday. I've also posted about the training today on LinkedIn and also on Facebook. So sometimes out of that, you get people reaching out and saying, can you do this, all that. So yeah, if you want to be visible, then make sure that you talk to people about the things that you do. Okay? What are the 10 habits of researchers who consistently win funding? You remember, if you work in an institution, research institution, or in academia, for example, there are people who have never missed to have a project. So every year they have a project they are running. Okay? One of the habits is they continuously research for continuously search for funding opportunities. I will show you the different platforms where you can search for funding opportunities. Okay. Then they also build long-term collaborations. I talked about this yesterday as well. Collect preliminary data before applying so that they have facts. They publish consistently. Develop reusable professional templates, proposal templates. We have proposal templates and even ideas, even within, especially for concepts. We have so many concepts that are just ready. So if we see a call, we just rework it and then send. So it would be a nice thing to have at least a template where you just will be fitting information and then you can always send. Okay. You can also seek what we call constructive peer review. Learn from unsuccessful applications. So when you apply and it's rejected, it will be rejected with comments. So you are told it is the budget, or it is about your background, it's about the problem that was not clear, it's about your objective. So you learn from those mistakes, okay? Keep updated CV and publication records and focus on solving real societal problems rather than simply conducting research, okay? Good research opens doors. Good researchers keep them open. So if you do a good research, a lot of doors will be open. But if you're a great researcher, then those doors will not just close. I'm also declaring the use of AI in part of creating this. So I hereby declare that AI tools, including ChatGPT, was used to support the preparation of this presentation by assisting with content development, slide design, and formatting and editing. The ideas, however, and analysis and final content are entirely my own. So I got information from other sources, from the grant agreement proposals and all these things, and I put them into this. I think this is one thing we need to talk about. We are working with the donor who says you're allowed to use AI to write or help you, but then you have to declare what you use the AI for in the development of this idea. So I think I wanted just to lead by example by declaring that, yes, there are part of this that AI helped me to generate graphics, but the entire information that was, you have to feed it with information for it to give you this. Now, I will stop this presentation here because there are two other things that I want to do. One, I want to show you where you will get papers from, or not papers, but where you will get grant opportunities from. And I also want to show you where you will, how you will identify. Remember yesterday someone was asking, how do I know people who to collaborate with? Let's say there's a call that says that I have to get a collaborator from Denmark or a collaborator from Finland. How do I know people in Finland? I can't know anybody from Finland. How do I get these people? So I'm going to show you one website, and I also want to show you a few documents that we are now using for application. So that's what I'll do, and then we'll get into the plenary. Okay, so I will show them one by one so that just as an example, they could differ, they could be, but I just want to show you one by one. Okay. So this is the proposal we are writing, but then, so this is, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me just share my screen now. So this is the template. And as I said, most of these things come with templates. So this is the template we are filling in. So it just starts with the scope of work, then the project title, the lead organization, the country, the thematic area. These are things you just fill in. And then these are just the general guidelines. So you make sure you abide by this general guidelines. You're told the technical approach should not be longer than 15 pages. Imagine, 15 pages. Okay? And the annexes should include CVs, budget, and budget documentation, all those things. So these are just things you have to imagine. A full proposal, 15 pages. So then it goes ahead to start with an abstract. We are told 250 to 300 words of the project, including the problem, research approach, expected outcomes, and significance. Okay? So they are even guiding you. The background, they want you to write a background, the research questions, the goals and objectives, the project approach and methodology, then the logic model, where you put the activity, the output, the short-term outcomes, and the long-term impact. Remember, these are the things I was showing you yesterday in my presentation because I was borrowing them from some of these places. Then the implementation work plan. So you need to show us what the work plan is about, okay? Provide a detailed timeline showing phases, activities, milestones, and deliverables across the project period, okay? Then sustainability plan is here. Ethical considerations, team and partnerships. How did you work? Who is doing what? Why is this person a member of this team, okay? Then the budget and payment schedule. So here they want you to budget milestone 1, milestone 2, then the deliverable, the expected completion, the amount in local currency, in USD, and the percentage total. That is the template for the proposal. Very simple one. The other thing that I also want to show you so that you see what these things look like is about the budget. Okay, I'm showing you here the budget. Let me just share my screen quickly. Let me open it first. It's okay, it's now opened. So I'm just showing you what they gave us, the template they gave us for the budget. So for the budget here, this is the template. So there are the guidelines. I'm not going to give you all the details here. There are the guidelines, and then now the budget lines are here. Personnel or labor, then the fringe benefits, there is the local travel, there is the workshops and meetings, there is the materials and supplies, then there is the equipment, there is constructual and consultancies, and then there is other direct costs, and then there is direct costs, and then put the total budget here. So just fill in this and then it calculates automatically. Then there's the milestone payment schedule. So milestone 1, what are the deliverables for that milestone, and then the total money that will be allocated for that. So basically that is what then that looks like. Then there is what we call the budget supporting document. They want you to also upload this as you give. You will tell us this is the budget, this is how much, and this is where this is where I base that budget on. So this document is where you are going to tell us on page 1, for example, what's the document reference. So you need to tell us where you got that quote from. Where did you get that quote from? Okay, so this is, we had a lot of them. So it's a long document that we presented, including snapshots from, let's say from KQ. If it is local flight, you said 8,000 per person per day for the flight. You go and take a snapshot and screenshot and say this is where this is coming from. Okay, I'm also going to show you something on the proposal we did for Gatsby. I think it's not here, and I also don't want to share that because then it's something we are still working on. So those ones I was just showing you, general ones. You might not know what projects are attached to them, but the Gatsby one is a proposal that we already wrote, so I don't want to share it here, but I think I have given the subject of the discussion. The thing that I want to now show you is about where to get collaborators, because somebody is saying, I have seen a call. It requires me to collaborate with someone from Japan. How do I even get a collaborator from Japan? Because I think this is a very good call that I would want to go and check out. So I'm going to show you a platform that is called Dimensions AI. And for those who have attended our trainings on open science before, you know that we always present about Dimensions AI, and I want just to show you Dimensions because it's a very good place for grants, and you can see grant information. So you just go to Research for Life, go to your institution and ask them if they have, each institution has their own login credentials that the researchers in that specific institution can use to access Research for Life. Ask the librarian to give you details of how you can log into Research for Life. Okay, so they will give you details because each university has their own unique login credentials. So you will log in using those details. Once you log in, then I want you to select. You just log into Research for Life. Once you log into Research for Life, then go under Content, then click on Databases. Then when you click on databases, they are arranged alphabetically. Once you click on databases, I want to scroll down on the databases and go to Dimensions. So Dimensions is a very good place where you can get grant information. There's something I want to show you about that and how you can get potential collaborators for your projects. I don't know why it's taking long to load, but I just want to show you, in the event that you want a collaborator from a specific country, this is how you can go about it. It's still loading. Let me just check out. Yeah, it's still loading, but as it loads, does anybody have anything to say about the consultancies we talked about? I say that was something I was just brushing over because it was not part of this discussion, but I thought it wise to throw in 1 or 2 words about it. Anybody wants to say something as we wait for this page to load?
There are a number of concerns on the chat that may require your intervention.
Yeah, just okay, I will stop sharing and just see how this page is loading. I don't know why it's not it's taking too long to load. I'll just reload it. So does anybody have anything to say? about consultancy specifically. Just a discussion. I'm trying to see, I don't know what is wrong with this page. It's not loading anything. So anybody with experience with consultancies, anything that you can add, maybe any tips that you can throw in? I don't know what is wrong with the page. It's not loading, so I don't know whether it's under maintenance or something. It's not loading completely. So there's something I wanted to show you, but maybe you can go and try it out later on. I wanted to show you how you will get access. Yes, Benson.
Yes, I've had a very interesting experience with consultancies, especially on what you call the rate cards. Sometimes you go for guidance, for example, to some of these top level, like the World Bank, and just to mention one, and you find the kind of rate cards that they give there are quite unrealistic with our own local African context. So how would you advise consultants at different levels of experience, whether individual or consortium, how to approach this, especially if you have a combined team, again on issues of integrity, issues of honesty in handling consultancy teams? Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have maybe something to respond to that? As I said, it's now a plenary. We can talk so that we give our experiences. Anybody? Just your experience on that question, because I'm also just starting out on consultancies. I think I've not led one myself. I've just been either coordinating the the ground teams, supervising the work, and also writing the reports and participating in some of these presentations. And the other thing that I also wanted to throw in before I forget is when you write a consultancy or when you bid for a consultancy and you are told to go and defend the budget, never, ever shall you discuss or negotiate the budget in the entire budget, like in lump sum. So if the budget is 3 million for the consultancy, don't allow the client to push you into negotiating. Like, is it possible for you to do this work at 1.5 million instead of 3 million? Don't do that. Even if they are offering 2.8 million or 2.7 million, don't negotiate lump sum. Never, ever. You stand the chance to lose a lot of money. What you tell them is, try to convince them into negotiating along the budget lines. You can tell them, fine, I understand, but can we go through the budget lines so that we see where we can save some money? That is the word you use. No, that is okay. That is the language you give. You tell them, is it possible for us to go item-wise so that we see where we can save on some little money based on the budget you have? Yes, Dr. Njoki.
I absolutely agree with you on that particular point, because what I have also realized is that the moment you tell them that and you go through the budget line item by item and you tell them, now you tell me where you think perhaps we can reduce, because then they realize any place they reduce, then they become, responsible also in terms of the compromises for the output. So after that conversation and after you have gone through it with them, they actually usually will end up saying, okay, it actually looks like it could work as it is.
Thank you. I almost forgot that. And I think it's something I learned the hard way. There's a time this is what happens. My mentor would allow me to sit into in these meetings. Maybe not to talk. He would just introduce me and say, Nicholas is part of the team. And then he would go ahead and present, even with other people. And I would just sit there and listen. And there's one time a client, boxed us into, I think, the first consultancy that we did together. And we ended up, we strained. We ended up not having anything out of it so much. So we ended up getting very little money. And I think that is over time we came to realize that you don't allow them to tell you that, can you now do this thing as 15 million shillings instead of the 20 million you're asking for? Then you say, 15 million will work, no problem. We will find what to do around it. You are excited about the millions, okay? Until you start now the actual work and you put enumerators in the field, you want to pay these consultants, you want to go out to the field and spend the night there, you need money, you need fare, you need to fuel cars to go to, and then you realize this money is too little, that cannot even achieve whatever it is that I wanted to achieve. So I agree that if you go item-wise and you tell them, fine, can we go through the items? And I think what Dr. Njoki is saying is very true, because then now it also transfers a level of responsibility to them, so that if they tell you that the data is insufficient, you tell them that during the discussion about the budget, you told me to reduce the number of counties from 5 to 2. So that's what I did because of the budget. We agreed this during the budget. Do you remember? So you have transferred part of the responsibility to them. So they will be like, okay, I think if we so they might end up just saying that, okay, let's work with the budget as you have it, because I think it has been apportioned very well. But if some of them will, and this is also the other thing, okay, why do I keep remembering them when I'm almost forgetting? I think I'm just getting old. Is 40 years old enough to call themselves old? Okay, I think I'm getting old. That's why I'm remembering and I'm forgetting. But I'm remembering some things, some tips that are very important. The other thing is, always resist the urge of giving prices on the phone or quotations on the phone, especially if it is your first conversation. Somebody has referred someone to you and they have given you a number. They say, I got your number from Dr. So-and-so, you work with him, and he told me I want to establish an aquaculture farm. I have a very good place near the river, and I want you to help me. So how much do you charge to construct one pond? And then you tell them, no, can you allow me to maybe visit the farm or sit down and do a very good quotation for you? And no, just give me a rough estimate so that I can start planning. There's something that client is doing. Because once you tell them that, then there's no way you are going to quote anything higher than that, because they will be like, but you told me this and that's what I was planning with. Always insist and tell them, if you want me to do you a very good or a meaningful quotation, give me 1 or 2 days. Or give me until evening. I'll sit down and do a very good document for you that is breaking down all the costs, and then I'll send that to you. Okay? But no. You just tell me. You don't have to be exact. Just tell me Tell them now. Give me time. Just give me time. I'm going to write this down and send you a very good document. Okay? Because then with that you can now sit down and think through it. Otherwise, you might end up giving some details because you are talking on the phone and you're not even prepared for this call and all these things. Okay? So. So you end up quoting figures out of pressure, okay? Because then what happens is they will. I can't be old at 40. Okay, so they will hold you to that. Okay, so always tell them, give me time. And what about writing these quotations? So you write a quote for a client. They tell you they don't want, or they tell you, fine, I received the budget, but I'll call you when I get the money. Then they don't. And you're sat down and spent time preparing the quotation. Maybe they just wanted you to use it for other things. Maybe this person is writing a proposal and they don't know how to budget for establishing a small hatchery, or a small unit of something. Then they call you and tell you that they want to do it so that you can do they tell you, I want a very detailed budget. There's something I want to establish in my farm. You remember the farm I bought in Kiambu? Yeah. I want to set up a very nice poultry farm there. Can you do me a budget? Because I want you to help me do this. In essence, they're using that budget for their own good. And then they will tell you, no, I'm still looking for money. So once I get the money, I will let you know. They have received the budget. They have used it in a place they wanted to use it for. How do you navigate through that? because these are realities in the consultancy world. I want us to, people to give their experiences, how to handle these things. So someone has also asked about contingency and all these things. These are things that most of the time are allowable, but there are donors that will tell you there's nothing like miscellaneous, just budget. If there's a need to adjust, you will let us know, and then we will tell you where to throw in certain money. The nitty-gritties of preparing a fundable proposal, I'm not going back there respectfully. We will share the details, the recording. Yesterday, we went through it word by word, section by section. So when the recording and the presentations will be shared for the 2 days. So you will be able to go over them again and just see. Anybody who wants to throw in something about consultancies, I wanted to show you something, but the page has refused to load. I've tried loading it over and over, but if you see our next training, if you join our WhatsApp group, you will see WhatsApp community. You will see our next training on open science solutions. We will be able to train on this. I don't know what is happening to the website. Yes, Dr. Njoki.
I think this is the last comment I'll make today. The aspect about the contingencies. And there's something you have hammered so many times in the conversation so far, the need to continuously have conversations and updates with the client. So for me, what I have always done is to request to include. In fact, I usually include it and then let the client push back on it, the contingency. And I usually have it at 10%. Then let them push back. I recall earlier today, there's someone who gave the example of the time when the late Baba called for Mandamano. And sometimes you already have people on the ground. So you have sent them there because it wasn't scheduled, and then they need to be paid. So, that then is a budget line that has been spent and the work has not been done. And it's not through any fault. It's one of those ones we call force majeure, the act of nature. So, many clients will agree to have it, but even when they say no, and then you are unable to meet that target, and you raise that and say that is actually why I had requested the contingency, then it always helps you in terms of accounting, because it's all about accountability. So when you raise it, they shoot it down. They will always know that you had requested for something to accommodate or to cushion some of these unforeseen circumstances. So I'd say don't be shy to ask for it and to request for it to be at 10%. Let them reduce it or let them shoot it down, but be able to justify so that when the thing occurs, then they are able to understand that you are not just being greedy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think these are the conversations we want to have, because then the other thing is some of these things we learn through experience, and sometimes we also learn through the experiences of others. And that's why we have these kinds of conversations, So the advice is put it there as 10%. And I think it has been standard procedure. So put it at 10%. And then if they say, this contingency, why do you need this? Is it possible when we are discussing, is it possible for us to remove this? And you tell them, that's the reason why I'm putting that there is that we never know. You could go to the field and maybe you have to extend by 1 or 2 days, or, and maybe someone drops out and we have to replace them. And, we need to do a very quick training for some 2 or 3 other people. And, you can always find a way of explaining, so that as Dr. Njoki is saying, in the event something happens and then they feel like, okay, why are you asking us for money? You tell them, but I told you they needed a 10% just in case something came up, and something has come up. So there's no way I'm getting any money from anywhere. This has to come from you. The other thing also with these clients, especially the consultancy, is don't be too soft on the TOR or on the deliverables. I have seen clients who will, once they give you the job, they keep pushing the boundaries. They will tell you, we also want you to do this. We also want you to do this. We also want you to write this. So if you keep accommodating, there's a way you accommodate, and you feel like being the nice guy will make it, how do we say? Being the nice guy will make them give you another job another day. If they don't give me another job another day, and I did this one diligently from my heart, it's okay, it's fine. But some of them, I don't know, maybe if any of you has ever had this experience with clients. You agree, and then now they start pushing. They send emails. They tell you that, yeah, we needed this data disintegrated into gender, the different gender. But then that was not part of what we talked about. You remember we signed that we just wanted data lumped together, for example, or we want you to do a policy brief, or we wanted to do a policy out of this data. But that was not part of what we talked about. So always refer them back to the agreement. They will. I know their clients will keep pushing. I don't know whether, as any of you have ever had this experience, and how did you deal with it? Because we can learn from this. Anybody? Hello? We are just sharing our experiences because other people can benefit from it. Yes, Dr. Joki.
Well, I had promised that was going to be the last one. But anyway, so I actually experienced it a few weeks ago. And, it's even got to a point where it was going to look like I was going to end up doing literally the work for free. And it's a lot of work. So I do recall having various conversations, and even to an extent, I even asked.
Sorry, we lost you. Hello, we lost you there.
I think she has been switched off. It was so abrupt. Oh, she's back.
Ah.
I see her picture still showing. Maybe it's just...
Is it the internet?
Oh my goodness.
We lost you for a minute, but it was very interesting because we wanted to know, because some of us will fall into this. And based on your experience, I know clients are different. We cannot deal with them the same way you dealt with your client, but it would be nice for us to borrow from there. So kindly just share. You said you had this experience a few weeks ago.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, well, so I don't know where you lost me at, but so, they really kept pushing back. And whenever I gave in, they pushed back again. So it got to a point where it was beginning to feel like after all is said and done, it was going to be more or less for free. But, it's a big client, and they tell you exactly what you have said. We'll certainly give you more and more and more. So I had a word with about 4 clients without saying too much, and said, okay, if you had expected me to extend and do this and this, what would it look like? And they kept showing me figures that then they would have paid. And so, in fact, one of them even sent me a quote, which I have opened and I'm reading now. And it said, never work for free. When they can afford to pay, they will pay somebody else.
That's true. Yeah, so I think what you are saying is, as I was saying, sometimes you feel like you want to be the good guy, and they will know that, okay, if we can push them, then they can save us on this cost. If we can push them because there's a client who will tell you, I worked for a client who we collected data. They were analyzing this data by themselves. So after they analyzed the data, they now said, okay, they sent me an email and said, we are sending you the graphs and the tables and all these things. Is it possible for you to develop a manuscript out of this? And I said, yeah, but it was not part of it. They said, yeah, but it's just like a report, it's just like a report from this work. And then, there's a lot of story. There's a lot in. This project is big, and we are still going to work with you in future. Yes, work with me in future, no problem. I would also want to work with you in future. But I also have to eat today. I have bills to pay today. It's like when somebody tells you that, Nicholas, I just want you to do this for free. It can lead to better things. Yeah, when those better things come, we will eat them. But for now, I have bills to pay right now. So pay me now and pay me later on. If they can afford to pay for it, they will pay someone. They will pay someone else. So the challenges are there. I know we cannot talk about all of them, and we are not able to highlight all the challenges we will have. But the truth is, just start it out. There's something I asked you about where the clients will sell you to give them a quote. And this is about maybe not the services, but let's say like when you are providing a consultancy, like you are designing something for somebody, you are putting up a farm for them, you're starting out a farm for them or a clinic or whatever it is. I know you are from different fields and you do a very nice quote and then they tell you, and you've spent all the money. How do you feel about this, or how do you safeguard against people using this quote to do something else? Because then they will then go ahead and use it to do something else. Anybody wants to give the experience? Yeah, because then they will tell you, I'm sorry, I wanted to, I thought I could get money, but yeah, I have seen the quotation. It's good. Yeah, we can work with this, but I'll let you know when I get the money. And then they just disappear. Or a client calls you to go and visit their farm or just do field visit. You have used your own car to go there. You've fed yourself, so you've eaten lunch, from your own pocket, and then they end up not giving you this job. So who is paying for that expense? Anybody? We are just talking. It's just getting our experiences. It's not like there's the right way or the wrong way of doing these things. It's just about our experiences so that we can learn from the experiences of other people. Yes, Benson?
Can I say something?
It's okay.
Yes.
I wanted to say this. When it comes to some aspects of consultancy, especially at the formative stages, when you are still trying to negotiate ideas and the nature of work to be done, I most of the time I want to treat it like what happens when you develop what do you call concept papers or proposals. Many of them end up falling through the cracks. So you treat some of those preliminaries because sometimes you may not necessarily agree. Sometimes the client, you may not agree from a professional point of view to proceed with the work, especially when the budgets are unrealistically low for the kind of work or for the nature of work, or even the level of commitment that you may want to give it vis-a-vis what the potential client would want to do. So I want to treat them more or less like that. But the other thing I want to share, maybe based on experience, is also the issue of sometimes you erupt into a consultancy, an assignment that you did not initiate, and so on. So there are expectations that there will be a push or a pull here and there, because not everybody is at the same level of integrity or ethical observance of ethical standards. But there are things that we need to do for the interest of integrity, for ethical standards of behavior, openness, and accountability, that when we work with the teams, we fulfill the requirements for ethical behavior, because the person you mishandle today may be the key to the next consultancy, because expertise differ. That may be the key to the next consultancy that you may lose because you mishandled them previously, and they can turn you down at the last minute. Thank you.
I like that very well, and I think it's one thing that you are almost leaving behind. Work diligently, not just for the client, but also work diligently with the people that you bring in. So if you don't, I was roped into a project last year, a consultancy last year, because this company was bidding. It's an M&E company, but they wanted a consultant. The consultancy was on aquaculture, actually. So they wanted my CV, actually. That's what they said. They wanted my CV, and I'm the one who presented all those things. But then at the end of the day, now you feel like people want you to do almost everything by yourself, and they don't want to do anything. And then now, when the time for payment comes, you start following them around. The client has not paid. When the client pays, we will just give you the money. Don't worry. Then it takes 3 months, and then you ask, did the client pay or not? Because I was not aware of what was signed and all those things. And then they say, we will just get some little money from our pocket and give you. And then when the client pays, you start, in the event that they call me again for another consultancy, I will just tell them I'm busy. I just tell them, no, I cannot commit to this because I'm already committed elsewhere. So be a good person that works with integrity with everyone else. Yes, Isaac, you raised your hand got tired and you lowered it.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. I just wanted to make a quick comment about something which was said earlier on about the request by a client to continue doing work which may not have been seen in the terms of reference. I did come across such an assignment, and as we proceeded, they started seeing new ideas which they wanted them included in the work. At one point, the principal investigator told them, we can only now go into a new subcontract because the data that was coming out from the work we were doing was so important in informing the Ministry of Health in terms of dealing with the NGO sector in the provision of healthcare services in this country. Then after a long protracted battle and so on, I think they agreed to pay more. What am I saying? That you could still negotiate with the client for additional funding depending on your negotiation skills and what they expect. Because initially what we were doing did not involve development of a policy brief. And looking at our preliminary reports and findings, they realized they needed a separate document in form of a policy brief to advise the Ministry of Health in this country. And our PI was able to negotiate additional funding based on the additional work that we were going to do. That ties in with something that I have seen being done by researchers and consultants in this country. In situations where there is no transparency, our PI would have negotiated that without our knowledge because we were a team of 7. But he did invite us for the meeting and for the negotiation, so there was no undercutting deals. So I'm just saying, the senior colleagues who are here, don't undercut the researchers under you or the junior people in your team, because eventually they will not join you. And out of that, we were able to do a lot of work with that team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The truth is we want to work with a motivated team. We don't want to work with a team where somebody feels like, these people are not, these people are being unfair and all these things. And someone else is getting all the money and I'm doing all the work. So just be a human being and be somebody people can trust and work with. So I think that's important. So there's something I want to show you even as we draw to almost to a close. I have I have collected a lot of sites where you can get grant information, because I always go out there, just search through and see where I can throw in my idea or not. So this will be shared. This document will be shared with you, so you can just also go through and check. I'm not going to open and start checking all of them with you here, but you can. I will share this document with the notes, so you can just go and check on this website. There are a lot of opportunities on these sites. Okay. Yeah, so you can go and check any of these sites. There are several of them, so just go and check and see where you can get some opportunities. This will be shared with you with the notes, so that you can be able also to see. Does anybody have anything else to say or any question? Because we've been sitting for the past 3 hours. So if there's no any other business, then we can end it here. If you have any other...
Excuse me, Nicholas.
Yes.
This is Vicky. I spoke yesterday. telling you that I'm a young student, a young scholar. I've just liked the way you are mentored and the way you have taught us. I'm very much impressed. And please also accept to mentor some of us as young scholars so that we may also reach those levels where you are. I'm so impressed. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I'm just starting out. I just got my PhD last year, and I'm still being mentored. I think one of the things is allow yourself to be mentored. My mentor tells me something. He's called Dr. Eric Ogello. If anybody meets him, tell him that I talked about him here. I hope he will not hear me. Anyway, he told me one thing, that, Nicholas, there's a time to learn and a time to earn. And most of us, most of these young scholars who are just starting out, I have noticed, like I've not tried working with people. You try to nurture someone and they want to start earning without learning anything. You need to learn first, then you will earn. So that is what my mentor tells me. We would do assignments with him. And I like one thing that I have always, I think that is why we've worked very long with him, is I have learned to appreciate what I'm given, because I know I'm also learning in the process. I also tap into his networks. I also tap into his knowledge. I also tap into his resources. But if you become someone who is difficult to work with, you are given 3,000 shillings, you say that's too little. That work was 1 million. Why are you giving me 100,000 and I'm the one who went to the field? Why don't you give me 500,000? They will just drop you, because there's always someone out there who can do these things. So be teachable and stay, be teachable and just stay loyal. Loyalty is everything. So I also would want to, I'm already mentoring. There are 2 young men I'm mentoring, and I think they're going to be to do well. But you can only be mentored if you are ready to be mentored. You cannot be a leader if you have not learned how to follow. So you learn to follow first, then you become a leader. So there's a time to learn and a time to earn. I know Dr. Njoki already knows this, that she did not start by getting consultancies in one day. She started working in teams, and then over there, from time to, she started now trying out small ones by herself to see where am I, and now she can now fly. You see? Yes, Dr. Ferdinand.
Thank you so much. I wanted to sincerely thank you and your team for these insightful presentations, discussions, and more particularly the experience that have been shared by senior consultants, which I think we have picked quite a number of issues that can be able to guide going forward. So I would want to propose, in terms of going forward, probably you may need to find a way how we can continue having a conversation once in a while, so that we do not, with this kind of wide team of around 145, I think we will need to look for a way on how we can have a continuous conversation and engagement for us to strengthen our skill and knowledge. And I would also want to be part of the team of the members that you want to mentor. Lady Fatima, your approach, I want to be part of the team that you want to mentor. Thank you, and back to you.
So, yeah, I think for me, it's humbling that when people approach you, when people tell you, Nicholas, I want you to hold my hand, I want you to walk this journey with me, it's not a small thing. It means that, and like in this case, I've only interacted with you for 2 days. I think not even the whole 2 days, but even people who ask me, because if you see, like in my one of the things that people ask me about is, when did you start publishing? Because if you see in my Google Scholar, I have almost 70-something papers to my name. I started being mentored early enough that, so this is my Google Scholar profile. Actually, I have an index, an index of 21. So, and some people ask me that you just got your PhD the other day. How did you even publish to get all these papers published already? Because somebody told me early enough that for you to build your portfolio in the field of research and academia, you must publish papers, okay? And in good journals, not in predatory journals. So, because someone told me about it. In this life, when you hear someone calling themselves self-made, or a self-made man, or self-made researcher, it's a lie. There's someone who gave you an opportunity when you are a novice, when you didn't know anything. There's someone who showed you how to do things. You must be able to learn. There's a time to learn and a time to earn. Don't be in a hurry. It will come slowly by slowly. You'll be given assignments, you do them without complaining. They start seeing you. Right now, sometimes people call me into activities, meetings, and conferences these are people who saw me through my mentor. So they trust my mentor. So they see me as someone they can trust, even if they have never interacted with me. But because I am in the foot of this guy, I'm stepping on his shoulder, so I'm able to reach other places. So I always tell people, go out there and deliberately, and especially when, yes, Dora, thank you for expressing this. Yes, teachable and trustworthy. Somebody gives you 100,000 shillings to go to the field and pay farmers and do all those things, and then you do some shoddy jobs, and then they find out. They will just keep quiet. They might not come and start making noise and all these things. No, they will just keep quiet. The next time they give you 50,000, you go to the field, you only pay farmers 200 shillings instead of 500 shillings per farmer. How much did you make out of this cheating? You only made like 10,000 or 15,000 shillings. But what do you stand to lose if this thing comes out? I think you weigh these things. I think sometimes we are just being stupid. You think you're smart, but you are not. You are just being a fool. Because when he finds out, he will not send you out again. He will not give you opportunities. He will not recommend you. Because if, let's say he has an assignment, he has been called for a meeting, a conference that will take 2-3 days, you are going to get 20,000 shillings per day. Because when you go there representing him, you will be paid at his rate. Now, you've just ruined that by trying to swindle him out of some 5,000 shillings. It makes no sense. I know we are human and we want to pay bills, but be someone who can be trusted with money. Money is a central thing to these things. And don't be someone who complains all the time. You are with your mentor, every time you're just complaining how you don't have money, how he's paying you very little money. We are human. Sometimes you feel, okay, I needed to, maybe I wish I got more from this consultancy. I was expecting more. Let that resentment just sit with you. Don't tell it out to anybody. Don't even tell it out to this person. Or don't even appear like you're being pushed to work. Because then there's someone who is just willing for that opportunity. They will get hold of that opportunity. You will never get it again. Like when I started working at TCC Africa as a trainer, I was trained first. I was a trainee in 2017, 2018. And then 2019, I got trained now to become a trainer. I have worked with TCC since then until now. I'm still working with TCC. And I've learned a lot of things along the way. And part of what I have been taught at TCC is to be diligent and just be who you are. I've always been given an opportunity to be myself and to do what I do best. There's nothing like micromanaging. You are told this is what you need to do it to your best of ability. No one is there to monitor what you are doing or to follow you around, but just the trust that you are going to do a good job. If anyone is here, if you have someone in your field whom you admire, approach them, be deliberate. Tell them that I want you to mentor me. I want you to hold my hand. If there are some assignments that you want done, please just throw them my way. I will try them out, and then I will be learning in the process. Don't be afraid to try. When you are given an opportunity, you are told to do something, don't say, I don't know how to do that. Fine, if you ultimately don't know, then say you don't. But if it is something you can figure out a little bit here and there, just do it. If it's a report, just write it to the best of your knowledge. The mentor in the process will tell you. They will sit you down and tell you that, this abstract, this is how you needed to have written it. I see you are still too academic in your language. When you are writing to donors, for example, this executive summary should have sounded like this, like this, like this. You see this word here. You see this line, this sentence. This sentence is very good for academics, but the donor will not understand this. So you needed to have replaced it with a sentence that sounds like this, or that means something like this. You understand? So that is how you learn. But if you say outrightly that, no, I don't know how to write reports, or I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that, when will you get the chance to learn? I have preached enough. Whoever is converted should be converted. Okay, thank you. It's a good way of it's a good way of finishing. So if we have any last words as we finish, you will be able to join our WhatsApp community. There is a lot happening there. So I will give Kevina the chance. If anybody has any other thing to say, again, they can say, but then I will give Kevina, my colleague, the chance to say her last words. I don't know whether her last words sound a bit not very good, but yeah, give us the direction from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. We have now come to the end of our resource mobilization training. And before anything, I would first of all like to thank each one of you for taking the time to participate over the past 2 days. I do hope that you have gained knowledge and practical skills to support your effort, whether it's in securing funding or effectively managing your grants within your institutions or your personal projects. I also want to extend my appreciation to Dr. Nicholas Souter. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your insights throughout the training. So before we conclude, I would just like to take a moment to share some of the resources that are available to support you through the Training Center in Communication. So first of all, this training is part of our calendar activities, which happen almost monthly. The updates are usually shared on our WhatsApp community, and I have shared the link in the chat box. Hey, sorry. So we also offer different trainings and webinars on different aspects of the research life cycle, which are free for the community members. So be sure to keep an eye on those in our community updates or on our social media pages. We also have our pop-up platform, which is an archive where we share training materials and guides. I've shared the link in the chat. And we also have a YouTube platform where you can access our recordings. There's also a podcast called Mazungumzo Africa Scholarly Conversations. And here we host conversations with researchers and experts in various areas of academic. If you'd like to participate, just reach out to me in the email I'll share in the chat box. We also have an academic TikTok called The Simple Academic, and we host live mentorship sessions every Sunday with Dr. Auta at 8 p.m. to support you in your research journey. So also the information for joining is also shared in our WhatsApp. So that's it. That's it on our resources. I think I also wanted to mention that the certificates will be shared by, let's say, Friday of next week due to the volume that needs to be processed. But the recordings and the presentations are going to be shared after the training today. So in around 2 hours, you can just check your emails, the ones that you registered this meeting with.
Kindly share the WhatsApp link. We don't seem to see the WhatsApp link on the group.
Okay.
Thank you.
For everyone who sent a request to the WhatsApp community, I'm going to admit you just right after this training. And I think that's it from my end. And on behalf of TCC Africa, I'd like to thank you once again for your time and for sharing your experiences with us. That's it from my end. I'm going to leave the meeting room open for 5 minutes for you to pick. If you haven't filled your name in the attendance list, kindly just list it there. It's important for the certificate registration, and also if you need any of the links to the resources in our WhatsApp community. Thank
I
you.
just want to find out, you're talking about the WhatsApp community. We
Yes.
haven't seen the WhatsApp link, or do we just give you our numbers to be added on the WhatsApp group? That's a concern that I'm having, because you're saying you will add us on the WhatsApp group, but we're not seeing the link in the group. So maybe you can advise whether we're giving you our numbers for you to be able to add us on the WhatsApp group, or you're sharing the link in here so that we're able to join the group through the link. Thank you.
The link is actually on the chat. I don't know, because I've seen it
there,
several
please.
times.
Yeah, it's there.
Midnight, please
It is
look
there
at
and it's working.
look at the TCC logo, the chat from TCC. Yeah, you'll see it. Just scroll up a bit.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll just add it again for members who might have missed it.
Good morning. Sorry, please. It seems the chat is not enabled. I've been trying to open it. It's not enabled.
The what? Sorry?
The chat is not showing. It's not bringing up all the information there. I don't know what is happening.
Yeah, I'm also trying to read on it, and it's so small you can't read the numbers. The letters that are on it are quite small. I can't even know where to register again after I'd registered.
Sorry, who's speaking? I need to check
This is
so that I
Vicky.
send.
This is Vicky Awakiwebuye speaking. I'm not able
Okay.
to get the link on this TCC chat box. Neither, you have also said that we will send our numbers afresh, but I don't see where to write my number.
Vicky, kindly check your private message. I've sent you the link, and please confirm if you can see it.
Okay.
Please confirm if you can see it.
I can't see it. I can see the TCC, but the numbers